Welcome back to a new broadcast, by the way. We had a couple of tech issues, but we are so back, Relic. And like you were saying before, Game 3s has really been the name of all of these Elite Tour main events. And it's really become the proverbial set for each of these teams that are set on broadcast. But this is no different. Nouns Esports, Dark E Kittens find themselves in the Game 3 scenario. Relic, who do you have on top here for Game 3? Who has looked the best between these two teams?
If we're talking about individual performances, that Nouns Esports Game 2 performance was thoroughly impressive to me. I think that was really playing upon the good foundational work that they started in Game number 1. And let us not forget, in Game number 1, it was a mega play from Kratos and Can't Stop 'Em and Chad combined to be able to turn the tides at the very last moment. Look, it's quite funny, I think, that the stream went down at this moment in time. History is being made if you haven't seen anything on Twitter. If you're American, I think you should probably go and check it. But there's never a time that is too late to win a Pokemon Unite series. And that's what Game 3 is all about. It's about holding your nerve. It's about making the correct decision going into draft. It's about setting yourself up for those final 2 minutes to ensure that no matter what happens, you'll be walking out the other side of this series as winners. And let us not forget, Draku, if Nouns Esports or Dark E Kittens wins this series, they're through to the playoff stage. This is a qualification game.
It's quite a critical moment in time for both of these teams, and not only for these teams, but also for us here on this side of the pond. If you have once again not seen Twitter, I do recommend you take a look. But Sableye Band once again for Nouns Esports. This time your second pick team on the orange side, Dark E Kittens, has been on your second pick side for game number 1 and game number 2. Cereledge also being banned out here as well. So no, not a whole lot of all-rounders to be selected here. But of course, Mimikyu still being a very powerful option. We might actually see that in the first pick selection here.
Yeah, either that or Umbreon, but it does mean that Nouns Esports will have prime opportunity to steal away. Dark E Kittens potentially prioritizing Hooper instead. I like that. I don't think... Nope, never mind. It is Umbreon. Look, I like that as well. I actually think that Mimikyu is the most expendable of the 3 options there. Nouns Esports locking in the Charizard immediately.
Wow.
I mean, again, worth mentioning, of course, that, as you rightly pointed out, the Cereledge is banned for the first time today, so they literally couldn't. Duraludon was being hovered, but a Desu Hooper has been the way for Nouns Esports in 2023. Never mind, it is the Mimikyu steal.
This is the same selection in game number 1 of our broadcast, and it didn't pan out so well for A through K as a very aggressive start with the Mimikyu and the Charizard. Let's see how Dark E Kittens decides to respond. Again, Charizard struggles in that early game, so you want to try to pick some characters that really thrive in that early game. We only got 3 characters that can make this Charizard's life very difficult on its way to level 9.
Yeah, so the Sylveon, I think, just preemptively taken away to deny even more sustaining combination with that Mimikyu. Bruv, Mamoswine. Look, if there's anyone I trust with defenders, it's going to be Bruv. I don't think the Slowbro has particularly worked. The Slowbro is banned today, and so might as well go for something slightly different. Ice Fang, a particularly potent move against Hooper. Dark E Kittens going with the Metagross and the Leafeon. That's a punchy finish to their picks. Nouns Esports hovering the Espeon. I like that. Again, in every one of these games, Draku, they've had some form of objective secure. Oh, they're switching. Oh, they're moving around. It's the Inteleon, which did particularly well in the hands of X-Plane literally 10 minutes ago.
Wow, going for a really bulky composition here on the side of Dark E Kittens, right? And like I was saying before, that Unite move from Charizard is really the most impactful and the most valuable tool in Charizard's kit. And how do you really defend against that? Not only do you want to try to inhibit this character from getting to that Unite move and getting the levels ahead, but you also want to try to build a very bulky composition. I feel like that's what this Metagross is going to provide to this team. And I think one character that has been a standout, at least in these last 2 sets, is this Leafeon. I haven't seen Kratos play a whole lot of Leafeon, but they're going to be seeing this characters most likely uniting this Charizard or this Inteleon as many times as they can.
Yeah, well, the fact that they've been able to rescue the Hooper away from Nouns Esports, for me, is one of the biggest wins there for Dark E Kittens, because what's the way to avoid a Charizard Unite move? Don't be there.
Vanishing.
just don't be there. And you have the opportunity to not be there by going through the hyperspace portal. And so, admittedly, it's never quite as simple as that. Lots of other factors will be at play. But I think the Dark E Kittens, I love the Metagross pick. Low key, I think that especially just denying that, as you mentioned, Death Ball sort of strategy, that's a great choice, great opportunity for the Leafeon Kratos to really flex to go punch for punch with the Mimikyu. For me, I think this Mamoswine is going to have a big say on the game. We know that Bruv, on his day, can be a game changer all on his own. It's up to him to ensure that those hyperspace portals are made as completely useless as possible. But Chad has other plans, and he has changed those plans once again, maybe lurking and looking for a steal on the buffs.
Yeah, of course, it's Eldegoss. Again, a Desu here for the defense. Mamoswine is definitely a defender that's gotten some love in the last couple of months, especially from our friends over in the Asia regions. But it's definitely a defender that needs quite a lot of experience to get online, just like this Charizard, right? As that level 5 and level 9 evolution, no other defender has that scaling archetype. I think closest to that is Goodra, but it also kind of sits down in the lower tier list of defenders. Unfortunately, that red buff or that slow from the boosted auto from the Eldegoss is not going to let Chad go back home safely.
The most boring KO in Battle Hub history. It has to be. That was painful to watch. But Nouns Esports have the KO pillar, so I guess they're not going to be complaining anyway. But big cabbage odds rotate. Mimikyu goes down already onto the Matang here. That's pretty useful, but down to half health. Popping that passive Toon Slipping into the backline, using that tackle to close the distance. Big damage dealt with the Gyro Ball. Big scores down from the Dark E Kittens. 20 points left on that pad. Plenty of value to be found.
2 arms growing for that Metagross or that into that Metang, and also growing in that attack stat as well. Is able to get a couple of stacks on that attack rate. 60 points on the side of Dark E Kittens. And it looks like there is an Invader on the side of Dark E Kittens. Unfortunately, this would be Invader. It's going to be KO'd by the sharp edges of that Razor. Super effective damage, of course, does not matter in Pokemon Unite. Gatlu once again going to find the sharp edge of the Razor Leaf, but they turn around with the sharp claws of their own, and so can they lock down here. Gets out with 1 HP. Back to their Speed Flux, grabs a Citrus Berry to defend this Tier 1 goal zone. Quite an electric start between these two teams the first 3 minutes of the game.
That's a lot of fumbles in one very short amount of time, and neither team has really been able to capitalize. Well, I say neither team. Nouns Esports has definitely capitalized, because we saw 3 going down onto that bottom path, and they've now taken the points lead, as slim as it might be. And there's Gatlu again, a little slash away. Second phase of Birds, but Eldegoss immediately closed down by Muck on this. Matang still 1 level away from evolution, 2 levels away from the Unite move. Computer Crash, such a great crowd control maneuver. Speaking of, his Seismic Slam cancels out the Leafeon. Will they be able to get back? Yes, they will. There's the Hooper Hyperspace Portal in effect. Matang rejoins the battle. Is that wise? Surrounded by 3. Certainly not for Ayami. Sorry, Ayami, I apologize. Not for the Hooper. They go down, and Muck, to be fair, is taking a long way around. Finally back on base. Oh no!
Careful as the Ice Fang able to pick him up, put him down, and Toon Slim able to lock down that KO on the Matang, and a level 10 Charizard is very, very scary in the top path, as they have definitely found their footing here. Regieleki being burned down to cinders, as now the Chad is also to watch this Regieleki go over to the other side. 22 points left on this goal zone. It's going to set up for a huge overcap in the top path here. They're going to break that with a 38-point overdunk, and they also might trade him a tank for it as well.
They're certainly going to trade the Mimikyu. I apologize, Chad. I know you now. Another 6 points down. Maybe looking for the 11. Certainly going to get the 11 as the Unite move caps off a 3 KO streak for Gatlu. Meanwhile, on bottom path, is anywhere you look, there's an interesting story going on. Dark E-Kittens were actually able to secure the Regirock in all of that and score some points on bottom path, but that Regieleki push secured a fantastic amount of points in of itself, expanding the lead to exactly 90.
Level 11s on both of your all-rounders for Nouns Esports, and finally their late-game scaler, this Metagross, has finally found all 4 of those arms or legs or whatever you may have it. Metagross, unfortunately, is going to be going down. Not the typing pairing that you'd like to see there. Of course, type advantages don't matter, but this Charizard has found that super effectiveness throughout this halfway point of the game. Level 12s now on your all-rounders. They get access to both of their, or one of their plus abilities, and well on their way to level 13 halfway through the game. 90 points separates these two teams. So like you were saying before, you know, still a very close game between the two teams, still a 100-point game. Adesu is going to head to the skies to defend itself with that Cotton Cloud Crash. And they're not going to have that Unite move. Very impactful Unite move. So definitely a sigh of relief for Dark E-Kittens.
Yeah, pick your poison, E-Kittens. Which Reggie are you going to prioritize? Are you going to attempt to split push? You're going to attempt to take down the Mimikyu. That's the second Unite move that can't stop him. Is forced out of Nouns Esports, but somehow the Leafeon was so close to escaping. But, oh no, sorry, the Mimikyu was so close to going down, but it's been turned completely on its head. I am flummoxed. I am out of words. The Earthquake, the 3 KO streak for Adesu, and the Regirock. Everything that could go wrong for the E-Kittens just did.
Frustrating team fight for Dark E-Kittens. It looked like a very easy KO, right? It was a Mimikyu caught all on its lonesome, but you have to thank Teamy for that that survivability on Mimikyu that did get a buff on the amount of life steal or recovery you get from Shadow Claw. So that 1 HP that was left on the sliver for that Mimikyu's health, well, there is that buff quite literally coming to impact right there. The Chad, by themselves on the top path, can go into that unbound state. Both tier 1 goals on the bottom path still strong, and looks like the tier 1 goal zone for Nouns Esports does get collapsed here, as they do have a Regieleki. Desu here looking for a secure. Can the Charizard get this away from them? They can! Just the auto attack and the breaker of chains, the queen of dragons here in the top pass, able to get a KO streak of 2 with that Regieleki. It might be a KO streak of 3 for Toon Slim, as they do find 4 KOs in the top path, and now level 14 on the Charizard. This is going to be a level 15 dragon going into the final stretch, Relic.
That was an extremely poor piece of play from Dark E-Kittens. It's the most critical I can be of them, honestly. In some places, in most places, it's been all about Nouns Esports and how they have performed to make up the difference. But Dark E-Kittens letting Toon Slim literally wander on in and get an easy steal. I'm sorry. You've got to move away from the Regieleki. You've got to prioritize the potential steal factor there, and it's just meant that that's a Regieleki, a potential tool to try and break that T1 zone on the north path. That's completely wasted now. We're going to see a third Reg on bottom path appear. That's not going to be contested. But Nouns Esports with a level 15 Charizard held by Toon Slim, no less, with a 14 Mimikyu as well and a 13 Atelion. I don't see much opportunity for Dark E-Kittens to make much good unless they can get a KO now!
Oh, can they get this one? Eject button to get away, bruv. Able to escape the clutches of Dark E-Kittens, and a lot of resources, more so that Unite move from the Umbreon was gone to waste here. And here comes the Charizard. They have that Unite move, can't stop him. Unfortunately, he's going to be heading back to the Pokeball, and lots of resources still ready to go here for Nouns Esports. The big question: where does this Seismic Slam land? Any character, you can almost guarantee a KO.
Oh my goodness, forcing out the Fairy Frolic. Sobi in too deep. Big freeze on Muck. They got the compute and crash, and they've gone in on 4, but they lost half of their HP before they even reached the damage zone. There is a chance for Dark E Kittens to go for a back cap, but I don't think they're connected at all to go for it. We've got Can't Stop Them maybe going to the top path, followed quickly, but we've got a KO, and it's for the Dark E Kittens. That's huge from Kratos. Charizard responds with Can't Stop Them falling. Got the ASV popped on the Inteleon. Here goes Muck once again into the backline, going straight onto the Inteleon with the crash, but it's a big Cotton Cloud crash, provides shielding there from the Eldegoss, but the Mamoswine finally goes down. Here comes Chad with another Unite move. Back cap from Toon Slim. Big cover-up opportunity for Nouns Esports, successfully dunked.
Here comes Rayquaza though, 50% left. This is exactly where Dark Eagles found themselves in game number 1. Here comes the Ignite move from the Charizard. They should be able to get this away from here, and a Zakir from can't stop them. All they gotta do is score in these next 20 seconds. Relic, there's that tier 1 goal zone going down. Charizard's in there trying to counter score on the other side. Don't think they have enough points, and Dark Eakins might find themselves going to the playoffs here in the Elite Tour, Relic.
It's unreal. But we have to believe what we see on our screens, folks. And what we see is a second UCS quality EU team. Scratch that, a world's quality EU team falling to the Dark Kittens. Exactly the same sort of format. 2-1 victory. And much like game 1, it felt like it was snatched right from the palms of Nouns Esports. This time, Kratos pop off 2 KO streak, distracted Toon Slim, and the rest of the crew did the rest.
Quite literally putting the entire world on their back. 9 KOs for the Leafeon pilot. Kratos, 65,000 damage. Isn't even your damage leader of the game, but somehow they have found themselves at the top of this David and Goliath story. And you hate to see that type of thing happen. I feel like we get that frustration of a one player on your team going for a back cap and the rest of your team just falling like dominoes. And I feel like that was the exact same story here. They won the team fight, but lost the war. They got the scores in, but not the ones that mattered.
I mean, 100%. It's so interesting, isn't it? I thought Dark E Kittens made the worst play potentially of the entire game up there on that second Regieleki, and then somehow Nouns Esports managed to go and one-up that. Toon Slim in a completely different postcode gives Dark E Kittens the green light to go and engage. Now is as good a time as any to try and pick off some KOs and turn the fight in your favor, and boy, did they! They're heading to the playoffs. Nouns Esports have another round of Swiss to go, and that's where at least Draku will find you then. I'm off on break, but Zoinks will be joining the action as the Swiss stage comes to its conclusion after this.
Welcome back, everybody. July edition Elite Tour Unite Battle Hub main event. Welcome back. I got a new caster with me. It is still not Zero, by the way. He is still most likely off on his fluffy pillow. Zoinks, how's it going, my friend? It's good to see you. It's been a couple of months since we've casted, maybe 2 or 3 months. How have you been doing, my friend?
I think we can all agree too long, but I am doing well. I'm pretty excited that you all made the call in Hawaiian shirts for today because I personally love wearing the fits. So I'm pretty excited, and the games have been lit already. A lot of Greninja, some Charizard in the mix. I've been a pretty big fan of what we've seen so far today. So I have to imagine it's going to continue with the exciting action all day.
So if you're just joining us where we are right now, we are currently on the last round of Swiss. We do have 2 teams that are confirmed for the playoff top 4. That is, of course, the E-Kittens, the Dark E-Kittens that we saw in the previous set, and a team that we have not seen on broadcast just yet, A3 and Snow. These 2 teams are facing each other in round 3 of the Swiss, but because of their record in the first and second rounds of the Swiss, they are guaranteed to move forward. And now looking at the rest of the teams, however, the games we're going to be seeing in this set, this is going to be Team Engage going up against A through K. We saw A through K earlier on today. They were able to itch out a lead against Fluffy Nemesis, so they are definitely on quite a win streak so far. They did not win their second set against A3 and Snow, so whoever wins out between these 2 teams is going to be moving on to the playoffs.
Yeah, big qualification set is going to be exciting. Engage, on the other hand, I believe they lost to Nouns Esports 2-0 in the early parts of the tournament, and they're going to bye in that second round. So I know they've been really pining for a second chance at taking home a W in this tournament because, like you mentioned, qualification match, you move on to our top 4, which is where single elim bracket begins, and of course, the race to earn that $500 prize pool that is available for the Elite Tour is going to be your best chance right here is this game. I mean, we've had qualifiers on qualifiers, and now, of course, the main event. A lot on the line, Draco.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, between these 2 teams, however, right, Team Engage, the only reason why they are almost qualifying for the playoffs is because they got a bye. Rework Respawn, again, unable to join in on today's event, and Rework Respawn was their Swiss round 2 matchup, so they immediately got the 2-0 victory. And because they did not win out against Nouns Esports in round 1, they have technically not won a formal set today in the Swiss stage, whereas A through K, Vamos, was able to win out against Nemesis. So they're at least able to etch out a couple of W's in the win column of today's event. And so, I mean, between these 2 teams, A through K, we've seen them on broadcast before. They are a Worlds qualifying team from EU. Team Engage, they are a sponsored team over in EU. And so I'm not sure how much familiarity these teams or players have with each other, but in terms of, I guess, their record in Pokemon Unite, I gotta give it to A through K.
Yeah, I imagine they're very familiar with each other, whether it be from the ranked leaderboards or even community tournaments, Battle Hub included. Specifically, I make that call up because I know ABC participates in basically every single tournament that they can get allowed into, whether it be North America tournaments or EU tournaments. These teams are staying up until the crack of dawn to be able to compete in some Pokemon Unite. So I know that ABC has at least got the download on what Engage is doing, and Engage, of course, has a lot of on view on what ABC's been doing. Now, in terms of what these teams have been trying to pull off in game at Draco, I think that's one of the most exciting things about today. Is we've had a pretty gigantic patch as of recently, especially when it comes to competitive play. You were putting out there on Twitter that you still think Charizard's D tier. I don't know if your mind's been changed yet, but
it has been quite hit or miss. It has been quite hit or miss. In the set number 1, we saw A through K, who we're going to be seeing on this set. They did win out 2-1 against Fluffy Nemesis, who brought Charizard in all 3 of the games. It didn't do so well in the first game. In the last set, of course, we saw Nouns Esports bring that out multiple times, I believe in almost every single game, and then we saw Dark Eakins kind of etch it out in game 1 and game 3. So right now, I think Charizard has, at least on broadcast, it has a 1-1 record. right now
Okay.
in terms of sets. So
To
we'll
be
see.
fair, though,
Yeah.
Charizard in that last game, it may have lost, but it was level 15 at Ray. So
You're
I
right.
think
You're so right. You're so right.
like, all right. I mean, results be what they may. I think maybe the Kanto starter needs a little bit more. It's insane to think that I need to put more respect on Charizard of all Pokemon. But hey, I mean, I personally am excited about the notion that Charizard is at least a viable pick
Yeah.
at this point in the game. I mean, it has been so long. I feel like it is one of those Pokemon that has never had its mainstay in competitive. There was that one patch when there were Natus on the top path of Thea Sky Ruins, I guess.
What a time.
Yeah, it was a single time, but I do remember that time. So maybe now we can actually have a elongated season of it. But it's not just Charizard that's been making waves for sure. I think the big one that I've been paying attention to in a lot of games, and honestly, if I'm gonna be frank, shocked that we're not seeing it banned anymore, is Ceruledge. Ceruledge is everywhere, extremely strong, and I feel like while it has received a couple of bans, not as much as I think the community has been gassing up the strength of this Pokemon. You think it would end up in the banning phase a lot more? Are you aligned with that, Drake?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe Charizard did get the quote unquote battle pass buffs. It is the poster child of the Scorching Waves battle pass. But I believe in terms of winners over these last two patches, it's definitely been Ceruledge. And I feel like this has been kind of a trend for Team E over the last year. They release a character, particularly an all-rounder. If we can think back to Blaziken, Mimikyu, Meowscarada, of course, is not an all-rounder, but kind of the same treatment. Metagross. They were released rather lackluster, lukewarm, if you may, for these fire-type Pokemon, but now definitely have amped up the temperature on how impactful they are in these games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too with how the kind of competitive community works with new Pokemon releases and stuff, right? Where we have the usually the 2-week timeline before we allow Pokemon in competitive. One, to make sure that every free-to-play player who's playing in tournaments will have access to practice and everything, and also because it's a history of bugs, and we just want to make sure we're checking that stuff out before we allow them to tournament play. But because of that timeline, it does usually mean that Pokemon only enter the competitive fray after they've gotten that, they release weak and we give them the buffs. It's kind of funny. We don't get the weaker Pokemon into the mix that often. But while it has been the trend, I don't know if I disagree with it or agree with it. Rather, I just, at this point, I'm very excited that Ceruledge is extremely strong because it is a meta game right now that we are in that all-rounders are extremely strong.
Yeah.
The entire roster is looking great. It's awesome that Ceruledge can be in that conversation out of top all-rounders. I mean, we got Mimikyu, Charizard. We don't see as much Gyarados anymore, which is a bit of a sad note, but I mean, Blaziken is right there. A lot of EU teams have been bringing the Buzzwole back quite a bit, and then of course Urshifu's back in the menu. So I mean, you need some buffs if you want to hang with a murderous row like that, right?
It's so interesting over the last 6 months. 6 months ago, there was really only one top path traditional all-rounder that was really in that position, right? It was Buzzwole, right? Maybe 8 months ago, a little further away from that. But it was
honestly.
just Buzzwole, and all of the other top path carries were defenders, right?
Yeah.
And now we're seeing today, we have at least 5 different top path carries able to be played, and we don't really see many defenders in that top path carry role very much anymore.
Yeah, I think it could be for a few reasons. One, just the general power level of all-rounders definitely is kind of maybe pushing those defenders out. Two, I think some of those all-rounder Unite moves are just getting a little too strong to push by the wayside. I think before it was hey, if we could just have Blastoise and Trevenant Unite in a team fight, we're feeling awesome about that. But all of a sudden, Ceruledge Unite move, Charizard Unite move starts showing up, and people are like, ooh, maybe we do need one of those in a final team fight. Or in Ceruledge's case, I feel like it's even stronger earlier rather than in the final moments. So, I don't know. It's an exciting metagame to be in. I do think it is a very open meta. I think we have a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
There are a few powerhouse options that I do think require a lot more bans. I'm looking at you, Mimikyu. Slowbro up there as well. But whether it be open, maybe the bans are kind of set in stone, but I do think when we start getting into picks, we do see some variety. I mean, Muck's been playing Greninja so much in today's tournament, and they're qualified for a bracket, right? So clearly you can have a little bit of spice in your drafting phases and still make it look good.
Yeah, of course, I think it's a lot of just comfortability and just something that Muck wants to play, right? Just for fun. Of course, these are grassroots tournaments and whatnot. But I think that also alludes to this idea that the attacker role just isn't doing so well right now, right? Muck has been playing this water shuriken Greninja, which again can flex as that mid-range attacker. Is that the Piplup back there? It is the Piplup. Of course, you gotta keep them all. Keep them sitting upright, of course, not sleepy at this time.
Okay.
Well, as always, welcome back. I was just saying.
Asked me something pretty specific. I had to make it happen.
yeah. I was just saying that the attacker role is very different than what we've seen. It's like almost flip-flopped with the all-rounders, right? There's not a whole lot of attackers that I would say are super consistent right now. You think of like Cramorant and Sylveon. Those are like the two. And then if you have a really consistent, strong Mew player, shout out to Flareons, for example, Mew player, right? But in that role in the bottom path, there just really isn't a whole lot of attacker carry Pokemon, especially not ones that are selected in that first to third selection of your team. All right, you can sometimes see a Sylveon,
right?
Yeah,
like I feel like you have your Sylveon and Cram, who are kind of the top of the pile. They're always going to be strong no matter what. But then falling underneath that, you have like what, Delphox, Venusaur, Chandelure, Espeon maybe, that are all solid, but they're definitely not taking priority pick, and honestly are more often thought of as counter picks rather than mainstays of your composition as a whole.
Yeah, thank you guys for your patience as we get into the third round of Swiss. Heading into draft number 1, Team Engage is going to be on your first pick side. Slowbro being the first heading to the ban, and A through K, Vamos on your orange side is going to be banning out Blaziken. Your, of course, your favorite middle tier evolution, of course, Zoinks. Got to remind you every time.
It's just, I love the first and last evolution of that Pokemon so much that it is just the grandest of canyons in the middle of how much I despise the other one. But all right, Slowbro and Mimikyu gonna be gone, so those individual lockdown unite moves are now down to just Charizard available. As Slowbro and Mimikyu gone, Blaziken and Sableye the bans of the other. We've been seeing more and more Sableye bans. I think players are starting to get wise to how good a Sableye main or Sableye one trick can really be in a competitive setting.
Yeah, I feel like Sableye, like aces on the other team, are very well known, right? Because of how impactful they can be, or I guess more annoying they can be to your team, right? Especially when you want like a Charizard on your side in the central area. Not the best level 1 through level 7, and Hoopa, of course, is going to try to make that a lot more difficult, but you definitely don't want a Sableye running around in your jungle when you're trying to last hit things against a thing that you can't even see, per se.
Yeah, that hurts. Yeah, Hoopa Invade definitely available, like you were mentioning. I wonder if Leo swaps the guard out for Floatstone potentially, for some earlier access to that, maybe even X-Speed, but we'll have to see. Otherwise, we have the Umbreon and the Charizard selected so far. Now we're starting to get into that realm of where the attackers could be options, of course the supporters too. We're going to see a Wigglytuff Mr. Mime combination. Shout out to Wrecker for that absolute goated item build so far. I'm sure we'll see that change, but let's go Leftovers Muscle Band Buster Mime.
So one of the interesting things that I found out about Wigglytuff, or I guess Cerulege's Unite move, right? So Cerulege's Unite move has like 2 parts to it, right? It first dashes through the enemy, it applies a mark to them, and that mark explodes into the slashes that you see. That's where the damage comes from, right? Well, that mark can actually be cleansed by a full heal, or like I was saying before in the broadcast, a character that has a cleanse property in their Unite move. And so I feel like the Wigglytuff pick here is specifically to counter Cerulege. And it's something that you maybe not can... It's a very interesting interaction, but it's something that Cerulege has brought to the game that allows Wigglytuff to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the theories around Starlight Recital being good has been... in every meta, right? There's some big source of crowd control. They're like, man, I'd really like to cleanse this entire thing. And Wigglytuff could technically do it. It's just, where do you put it? What role do you allow it to be in? And in this situation, it looks like we're going to be seeing probably the Mr. Mime play a damage-focused role on the team, and Wigglytuff and Umbreon will handle the more defender support style of builds in this next matchup. Which would make sense to me. The Aegis / final pick for Oscator, I think, is a really interesting one, especially with the rest of this composition. They are lacking for range. However, the other side doesn't really want to be playing from range either. We're definitely going to be drawing up the battle lines and just running at each other.
Yeah, I guess one of the interesting things about, again, attackers not really being in the metagame right now, again, there are a couple of attackers, but not many. It allows like these other characters that can flex into the attacker role, like start to take dominance, right? You see like Charizard, it's an all-rounder traditionally, but it has those range attributes about it with its flamethrower and fire blast. Same thing with Mr. Mime. It's not a formal attacker. It does do special attack damage, but it's traditionally a support. It has that I forget the color behind it, right? And so there are these other characters that can start to flex into the attacker role that have not traditionally been used as attacker, but I feel like they need to because of how minimal characters there are to be selected in that role.
Yeah, that could be part of it. It's that is fair. You just run out of options. You got to try to find something in the tank, and well, in a situation where you just really want a composition that's built around tankiness and bulk, yeah, it could work out. We see this a lot in other MOBAs, right? I think back to League where ADC supports were for everywhere, but yeah, so far record decides that the Mr. Mime actually belongs in the central area. While Rip is only going to fight over the red buff, abandon the blue buff for their team, but Light Screen's going to prevent Leo from even getting within range.
Can we also ask why Light Screen stuns, by the way? I always had that question.
Yeah, it got buffed to do that at one point, right? That was I remember it got changed so that the Light Screen initially did get that stun. Wanting more crowd control, honestly, I think they wanted to see a little more Mr. Mime Defender. But hey, we finally got there. And it's working out quite well so far, I got to admit.
All right, Riker here in the top path gets that level 4 access to Confusion. Very good last hitting capabilities, especially in the early game in the supporter class. 3 in the top path for either team. Still slow on that Eevee on the side of A through K. A lot of it should go over to the side of A through K with that secure from Mr. Mime, but I think it was split right down the middle as we do see a Ceruledge on the field now being put in a mean look. And it looks like both teams now just going to disengage. A fairly conservative start for both teams.
Yeah, a lot of crowd control, so pushes are going to be super risky from either side, right? You have a Wiggly, a Mime, and an Umbreon to push into the top side. That is going to be devastating, but nice play by Snorlax to pick up that blue buff, and not a high chance of letting it go either. Snorlax certainly a tanky boy in the early game. No one's damage really coming up to snuff to try to take down that Snorlax HP pool.
And I believe this is a Trick Hoopa, if I did not. Yeah, there is that little purple-pink bubble around Hoopa that can give you some movement speed to yourself and also to an ally, as you can see right there. Heavy Slam finds itself on 2. A lot of this experience should go over to A through K. And once again, fairly conservative start, going over to engage, though, especially with these earlier game invades. Ceruledge, though, in top path is going to be able to score a huge 30, emptying out its pockets full, both in the top path and that Wigglytuff scoring 30 in that bottom tier in goal zone as well.
Yeah, everyone looking solid and engaged, maybe outside of the Metagross, who's been struggling to get higher levels compared to their counterparts. But, I mean, if Ceruledge and Sylveon are leveling, you're going to be just fine in the early game. Metagross can handle some more of those late game points.
Yeah, Sylveon's going to be going down here in the bottom path, not here for these 720 Swablu and Altaria, and quite a ways away from their Unite move as well, especially for an Evolution who gets that Unite move at level 8. Definitely want to try to get that online. I think Snorlax, unfortunately, has slept too long here in the central area of this bottom path. It's going to leave this Metang and the Sylveon here to defend here. And this Ayame might be going down as well. Has a wish, unfortunately, did not come true in time. And still level 7 on the Metang, level 8 now. And Sylveon well on their way to that level 8 Unite move. But Charizard first to get that Unite move online, and it's going to be an impactful one.
Yeah, I mean, ABC really counting on this Charizard of the next team fight. That's why they're going to get single target focused down by that Snorlax with that combination. Mime trying to create a little bit of space, but Charizard does get the Unite move off, and there will be an immediate KO with the Sylveon. All of a sudden, Engage playing at a deficit. Heavy Slam tries to steal, but it will not work in the face of the Umbreon as Ayame picks up the first objective of the game for ABC.
Another ice set on this tier 1 goal zone. Finally, a Charizard on the field, and how, oh boy, it's been such an impactful character so far. They have 1 point left on this goal zone, and a full pocket for this Charizard. But the Sarah is going to come here. Revenant Ren finds itself on 2, and you can see it right there. There is that cleanse, the moonlit recital, or the starlit recital for the Wigglytuff, able to cleanse that mark and saving that Umbreon and Wigglytuff from all that damage.
Hey, shout out Krinsky for making the commentator's point happen. I mean, honestly, we love a player who listens to the stream and makes that happen. Amazing work, and yeah, pretty phenomenal play. Obviously, you can see ABC able to walk off that powerhouse Unite move and still get some scores in and be relevant in that fight. They are a little bit behind on the scoreline, though, as Team Engage's early game was extremely strong, especially with that big score from Sarah Ledge in the early moments. Regieleki could change things. We finally have the Metagross getting in play, but a huge wall by that Mr. Mime. And of course, the coup de grace, one of the best execute Unite moves in the entire roster, is going to be picking that one up. Regieleki going to land. This goal zone about to explode.
50 points on that goal zone. Got to make sure they do their math here correctly. They might even expand or wait until this Regieleki goes all the way down to 0 before closing that one out, and potentially preventing them from any Indeedis later on in the game. A set of Indeedis can be the difference between level 13 and level 14, or level 12 and level 13. They're going to close that one out with a huge 40-point overcap halfway through the game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the field state here, but it looks like a huge team fight starting to break out. Mean Luck finds itself on the Sarah Ledge. Revenant Ren finds itself on a couple of characters, but I think once again, the Revenant Ren not getting a whole lot of value, as A2K able to withstand that Ghost-type Pokemon's Unite move, only trading the Charizard. Still a fairly impactful KO, as that is one of the highest levels in the game.
Yeah, Bordy eventually goes down in that scenario, which again, I think is always going to be priority number 1 for Team Engage. Level 12 Charizard right now has become the raid boss. So yes, maybe they don't get the entire team wipe ace or something and look flashy, but as long as Charizard's getting knocked out, I honestly think your job is getting done. Been interesting stuff to watch what ABC's been trying to do. Wrecker's going through another central area sweep, by the way, on this Mr. Mime, whereas I think Charizard took maybe 1 out of the 3 possible rotations so far. But at the moment, Registeel about half HP. Big engagement by the Snorlax, countered up by the Sing a little bit, but Hyperspace Fury in the back end. Charizard does grab that Snorlax, who's able to come through the portal and actually dodge the KO. We'll see how long for, and it will be Sarah Ledge taking that Registeel. So some ankles broken and a Reggie taken.
Yeah, I think that was a boosted auto, by the way. I was able to secure that Registeel, so you always love to see auto attacks getting those types of secures. Now they have their eyes set on this tier 1 gold zone. 26 points, going to bring that down to 3. And they have a huge potential here for a nice overcap. Revenant Ren finds itself on the Mr. Mime. They closed out with a 31-point cap on that tier 1 gold zone. It's going to bring that score close to parity. Last jump fight here between the two teams. It looks like Team Engage is finding themselves on top by way of that Registeel buff.
Man, Gallo getting those 2 KOs actually might be pivotal. They're not running Energy Amplifier in this game, if I'm correct. So it will be a little difficult to get that Unite move back in just a minute for that final fight, but you earn some KOs immediately after using that Unite move. Your charge is going to be looking a lot better. Leo getting caught, play for some info, play for some buffs. You're going to get neither, but at least it gets sent back to base rather quick. And now the rest of the squad just playing to defend this bottom tier goal zone and level up as quickly as they can. Regieleki is still available, and it feels like both teams are finally wise to that objective.
Yeah, 11 points separates these teams. It's a close game in quite literal terms in Pokemon Unite speak. Level 14 on the Charizard, if they're able to take this Regieleki and they have really optimal positioning, and they do, you're going to send that to the tier 2 goal zone. Now Engage most likely is going to forego this Aleki to the tier 2, but this fight might be breaking out here in the top path. Roman Empire is going to set up the Colosseum. He's going to try to trap a couple of characters, but they're able to escape back to their jungle, and Revenant Ren finds itself on 3 characters. I wasn't sure if they were able to cleanse that with the Unite move from the Wigglytuff, and it's going to send A through K scattering like letters in alphabet soup. 2 characters down, make that 3 characters down for A through K, and now Team Engage should have their eyes set here on this Rayquaza.
They haven't done anything about the Aegislash, though. Is at full HP. He's now within range. Oscar is going to use the United just barely misses the Rayquaza. Sylveon gonna take that one for the team, and Rince takes one of the most important moments of the game and handles it perfectly. Team Engage gonna start this series 1-0. That was a scary moment. Despite being 5v1, an Aegislash at full HP is always a terrifying sight to see, but Engage gonna take this battle of VU. Really solid start for them.
Yeah, not only did the players help the commentators by showing the example of the Wigglytuff and Unite move from the Ceruledge, but also what you said earlier, the impactfulness of the All-Rounders Unite move. That team wipe was all by way of that Ceruledge Unite move. It landed on 3 or 4 characters. It KO'd, I think, 1 or 2 of them immediately. It left the rest of them scattering. It allowed Team Engage wide open doors to take that Rayquaza off the map.
Yeah, Revenant Red is crazy. I mean, it is so extremely strong. It's why before the buffs, everybody was running just Energy Amplifier X Attack on Ceruledge.
That's what I was doing.
That's what I kind of still am doing it. I'm not gonna lie. But it's like
good mobility. Natural.
This
good
Pokemon
mobility.
is just good at one thing, so let's just lean into the one thing. And now, obviously, there is a few more resources for that Pokemon to have access to. But either way, big moves. ABC's Charizard was a terrifying sight to see. It did get to walk away from that team fight with its own Unite move, but with all of its friends already being KO'd, it felt like Charizard just maybe not it in that moment. And I mean, Draku, more credit to your D-tier claims. Currently, Charizard not really holding the candle to the W column.
Well, once again, it was like a level 13, level 14 Charizard, so
Right.
it's still getting to the thresholds that it needs to, the benchmark levels that it needs to. But again, these Unite moves and the All-Rounders, like you said, can quite literally change the tides of these games, right? I felt like Team
For sure.
Engage were on their back foot. They lost to Regieleki, and here's that big Unite move. There's 3, a little bit late on that Unite move from the Wigglytuff. I don't think he even actually got the Unite move
Yeah, I
off.
don't think so.
So, you know, it's really just who is able to get their Unite move off first, the Charizard or the Ceruledge, right?
Right. Yeah, that final team fight was actually really interesting because first it kind of begins with that fight around the Regieleki, right? And no one's pushing into Umbreon Mime Wigglytuff to fight over that objective at 210, right? That is as good as ABC's. You are not going to win that battle at all. So they make the correct call. Engage doesn't take that fight there, but they do push with a very quick engage with their Snorlax and Metagross. Metagross does the compute and crash thing, puts up the walls, but everybody just ejects out of the way. Metagross is just kind of standing alone in their room, and unfortunately, they don't get much value out of that. So things get scary, but then, of course, we have Gallo who swings it on the Ceruledge and makes it count, is able to avoid that Wiggly cleanse like we were talking about, and, I mean, corridors go crazy for most all-rounders, and this Ceruledge, no exception. So, very, very good start in game number 1. In game number 2, I really wonder if we see the Ceruledge ban in this one. What we see Mimikyu and Slowbro, I feel like we toss up a Ceruledge into the mix.
Yeah, I feel like there's no way it goes through here. Slowbro is going to be banned once again in this set. Slowbro is just the best defender in the game, in my opinion, at the moment.
Yeah. This is ancient Unite history, Draku, but before competitive even started, I think this was just before mobile launch, there was a podcast that was incredible it was called the AOS Clubhouse. This is a huge ancient shout out. And on it was a member of that podcast was named Mockery. He was a big Heroes of the Storm player, but he was mentioning, and back then Slowbro was not very good. You remember? Nobody was playing this Pokemon, and he was just like, when draft comes, Slowbro will be one of the best Pokemon in the game. And, I mean, he was a prophet at the time. It was like a year and a half previous to it happening. But it has been going crazy. But all right, let's talk about these bans again. Slowbro, Mimikyu, Blaziken, Sableye. I think exact repeat bans, which means the Ceruledge will be happening yet again. But this time, it's going to be ABC to pick it up.
Yeah, they're going to swap the all-rounders for both of these teams. Engage is going to pick up that Charizard for a first pick option. That's, again, a very aggressive start. I would say I do like A through K's start here with the Ceruledge and the Umbreon, with the Mimikyu and Blaziken and the Slowbro being banned out, respectively. These are probably the 2 best characters in their respective roles. And we also, of course, Hoopa, very consistent.
Oh, yeah. We do have Engage stealing that Wigglytuff, though, Draco. So that on-paper counter to the Ceruledge now being stolen away by Team Engage. And oh my goodness, I actually would love a Tyranitar in this composition. I'm actually just thinking about it. I'm like, wait, hold on. Let's not forget about the big T-Tar boy. But looks like that will not be happening. But hey, maybe ABC has decided that Mr. Mime Central is not the play, which I don't hate. I do like that adaptation, if you even want to call it that. So we have one final selection for them. It would be Blissey and Pikachu, so yet another double supporter composition in our game here in Swiss.
Yeah, Pikachu, a character that I would say has been fairly consistent. It's not picked very often. Its role, it seems very linear, I would say. It's mostly just a supportive type attacker. And we do see Rakir picking up this Absol, who, in my opinion, has been picking up in usage in the Speedster category.
Yeah, you would be surprised if it ever was low if you were familiar with Wrecker's work, though. I mean, this player, as close to a one-trick, I think, as you can get in competitive these days, right? I mean, Wrecker does play a host of other Pokemon now, but jeez, when they were first coming to the competitive scene, it was just Absol all the time. So much so that in UCS tournament games, they were getting target banned again and again. Back when we only had one ban. In the game, they were using the one ban on Absol. So you know that there is at least some level of respect going to this option because Wrecker truly is a master of this specific Pokemon. I know we talked so much about how the all-rounder meta is upon us, and we're seeing so many of those Pokemon in play. We have been seeing a deeper well of speedsters as of recently. A lot of Zeraora and Absol showing themselves. Teams have been making Meowscarada look good again. I mean, things are hype. I guess they gotta keep buffing Talonflame until we see it again. I don't know. And then, of course, we need to keep nerfing Dodrio. The thing's too strong, please.
I think there's like an argument that goes just like the fundamentals of Dodrio, it just makes it a really strong character, right? It has to be like completely gutted for it to be like a worthless character. Like even when it was dropped, I feel like it just the learning curve was just so high that people didn't understand how powerful it could be. And now that it's been out for almost 2 years now, like everyone just knows how to play it. But the Speedster role has definitely jumbled up over the last couple of months. You know, Dodrio very common, Zoroark for some certain players like Shiryu or Machizel or Overlord, right? And now we might be seeing some other ones like, of course, Rakir on their Absol. Absol's been popping up in NA as well. Not a whole lot of Talonflame, kind of sad because I love Talonflame, but K-Opener going over to A through K is Absol is, I believe, is their top path carry Pokemon. They should be able to take a couple of these pieces of farm away from this Chansey. And of course, as we always see, Sylveon, level 4 evolution, going to grab that red buff, grab that Xatu, head up to the top path too.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, Absol might be in the top path now, but I imagine they're going to trade places with that Sylveon for the remainder of the match. That would just make sense to me, but interestingly, for the topside Pokemon of Engage, they are going to put the Charizard top path, which we don't see too often. I guess when you're running Leafeon, it's just too valuable to have that big level bonus at that first fight on the top side at 850. Which we're about to see. It's going to be a 4-player push for ABC as Bordy gets involved in the fight. That's going to be the first Pokemon down. Leafeon carved up by the Absol. Blissey next.
Blissey to follow up, and they might have their eyes set on this jungle as the Absol is most likely going to be wandering at this point in time. No, it looks like Bordy, supported by the other ghost type on their team, should be able to take this red buff quite easily. Oh, stolen away by the Solar Blade. We don't see Solar Blade all too often anymore. Again, so the more consistent of the two abilities. Razor Leaf still a very powerful option, but definitely a lot more risky because you want to be in and up in their face, whereas Solar Blade's still a very good last-hitting option, but can also flex that attacker role. Like we said before, not many characters in that role to begin with.
Yeah, that is true. I genuinely think either are fine. When it comes to selection, I often find that it's player preference that we see the most from this from these Leafeon players. However, I think the trend is definitely leaning towards the Razor Leaf Aerial Ace build, the more assassin style. But yeah, you're right. If we need some more mid-range potential, that will be able to be possible. And, Cute Charm Wiggly into Absol is criminal, and Eastark should be locked up.
I believe that Q-Charm just stops Pursuit. I don't play a whole lot of Absol, but it's like the same. It's like the same interaction with Drill Peck, right? If you Drill Peck directly into a Wigglytuff, you just stop.
Oh, Wiggly is the most frustrating character in the entire roster, and I will go down saying that. Wow, 30 points uninterrupted will break that goal zone. Big score for E-Stark. I'm kind of surprised we don't see the target priority there, but another interesting thing to talk about, Draku, is we have the Pikachu on the more mage build rather than the crowd control build. We're going all damage. It is Thundershock Thunder Pikachu, my personal favorite.
Yeah, and it did get a, I believe, cooldown buff in the most recent patch, so you get more Thunder Thunderbolts more frequently. Unite move coming out of the Absol, able to get 2 KOs. Is a Wiggly tough as gets KO'd now. Oh, that revenge KO with a Blissey is might be a little bit upset as they do see the other supporter on their team go down. A steal going over to the Blissey, quite literally a steal for Team Engage.
Yeah. Wait, who got the Reggie?
It was the Blissey.
Okay. Wait, but Registeel. Oh no, okay, I get it. Hold on, I thought Charizard was on the other team. I'm so sorry, I was so confused. I was like, but Charizard's orange. All right, I got it figured out. Charizard with the 4K, much
Charizard is
thanks.
orange, you're right.
Thank you. Yeah, shout out to Leo on a huge steal on that Blissey in the face of so many players. Obviously, the players didn't stick around for very long. Thanks to Charizard. Emerald 2-step not going to find anything as the Pikachu does some poke damage to make them run all the way back to the base. Saraled just trying to make this engage happen. Eject button to extend the range of their Unite move, but the Charizard turns and burns as Absol goes down first.
So they're going to respond with their own Unite move, and they might find a KO here. Absol going to be going down before they're able to make it back home to the right side of the map. Trick is going to heal about 15% that max HP for the Saraled. It's going to be a 2v1 here in the central area as Oscitar might be able to make it back home, supported by itself in that Draining Kiss, and Bordy might be heading to the Pokemon Center as well. 4 team members for Team Engage halfway through the game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the field state. Oscitar here on this Tier 1 goal zone, 138 to 88. Can the Wigglytuff get another score in? No. Unite move from the Absol just there to stop it. Moonlit Recital able to cleanse a little bit of HP or give some shielding to the team as they head back over to the left side. Unite move by the Charizard, able to KO the Absol up in the sky, trying to burn down this goal zone. 3 points left in the goal zone. They're going to break it with a suboptimal break. 4 points, just a 1 point overcap, just more so for positioning. So.
Man, Hyper Gallo playing extremely well in this Charizard, now showcasing their ability to rock it on Saraled and on Char, which is very exciting. You know, these are Pokemon that we haven't seen for long in Saraled, and a Pokemon that we haven't seen in a long time for Charizard, so cool to see a player have the mastery of both. By the way, they're going with the Fire Punch Fire Blast build, which I don't think we see very often, but hey, wherever these players like to find their comfort in, I'll take it.
I mean, it goes in handy. Oh, let's talk about this the huge defend here before we talk about that moveset really quickly. Pikachu is going to be going down. Blissey also gets scrambled as well. Another Revenant Rend makes its way onto the team fight as well. I don't think they were able to get anything out of that. Just going to try to push the enemy team back. Another Unite move from the Charizard. Very fast Unite move charge from this Charizard. Most likely has an energy amplifier. KO Shriek of 2 with that notification. And then going back to that thought. So one of the things that I found out about Fire Punch, and I'm sure you know this as one of the players who love this moveset, but Fire Punch, like the Cannon Fire Punch in the main series game, it can apply a burner. It always applies a burner, and it reduces the attack damage of anything that it hits. So especially for like Saraled or the Absol, when they're trying to chase down this Charizard, you can reduce the amount of physical attack damage they do if you are able to hit them with that Fire Punch.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So reason I thought it was just kind of unusual is just because we usually see it paired with that Flare Blitz, right, for the kind of double melee focus, or you see Flamethrower Fire Blast with a more range focus, but kind of splitting the difference, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Oh, nice Starlight Recital to try to prevent the Absol from getting that KO. The Sing to prevent them, but eventually they'll get the chase down. Saraled and the Absol make sure the job is done, and well, Pikachu also showed up, I think.
Showed up and quite literally left the show quite quickly there as the Absol and the Saraled honing their claws and their sword on the side of a Pikachu. You don't want to see that if you're the Pokemon Company watching your mascot being cut down to size in there. Riker has 50 points, so quite a huge pocket to dump here in this Tier 1 goal zone. Looks like they're going to be able to hold on this goal zone quite well, unless the Pikachu once again goes down, as E-Stark might be singing the song of Perish for itself, as a 50-point break for ABC is able to get this goal zone down. 184 to 177. That is going to give them the score lead as well. Close game between the two teams.
Yeah, that's huge for ABC. I mean, they had to play that one a little unfortunate, right? Krinsky needed to bail off that goal zone to go pick up more energy to try to break it. They knew they were quite far behind leading into this final stretch, so they knew they needed a bigger overdunk or else they'd be kind of out of it in this final stretch. But now we are looking at an extremely close battle. Thank you, video game. And now we go with 2 minutes left. It will be the Charizard playing around the bottom side, now rotating up to top. They want to take any 1v1 that ABC will give them. A 1v1 versus Absol, it's fine. They'll take it. Saraledge, it's fine. The Charizard just wants a Unite move target. Hyper Gallo is sitting at 14 right now. Raid boss status.
Yeah, I gotta watch that Charizard. Where do they decide to use their Unite move? We've gotta be very careful. Those iframes from the Absol is gonna make it very hard to unite them. Unite move finds its way onto the Umbreon, forced to use their own with that eject, but another Revenant Rend responded by a Starlit Recital, cleansing the mark, and all of that damage that were coming out of the Saraledge cleansed by a character on the field here. Rayquaza, 50% left on their HP. 1 minute left in the game. Still a fairly close game between the two teams, and they looks like they might be going for a reset on their fight, Zoinks.
Yeah, the great target priority on the Leafeon by Oscatar. They know the Solar Blade is the best secure option. Remove that Pokemon from that team fight, and now you can have a more honest battle around this Rayquaza. Oscatar is throwing in some more Mystical Fires trying to reduce that damage, but all they're really doing is buying time at the moment. However, that's a lot of time they need to earn. Such long respawn time for both sides. Absol and Umbreon, the only two remaining Pokemon up for ABC, while Engage has only lost one. Record targets a Pikachu, that's 1 KO, but that's all they're going to be able to get as the collapse is perfect from Engage. Rayquaza now almost off the map. Krinsky waiting on the outside as Saraledge is back. Solar Blade Leafeon has now respawned, and that is an easy secure option for the evolution.
Yeah, 20 seconds left and huge pockets for Team Engage. It should be an easy score here on both Tier 2s and that Tier 3. And Team Engage is going to see themselves away to the playoffs as they're able to knock out A through K Vamos out of the Elite Tour.
Wow. Okay, Charizard W. Make sure we all remember it. But Team Engage making that look solid. That was probably their most dominant look that we've seen from them. Obviously, we didn't get to see them on broadcast before, but Hyper Gallo, 11 KOs on their Charizard. Their Saraledge looked maybe even better in the previous game. I mean, golf claps out there for ABC, though. Sad Wreckers, Absol, always a joy to watch and cast. 9 knockouts for them, but it's Engage taking home the W. 99,000 on that Charizard, 118,000 damage on the Absol.
Yeah, I mean, huge shout-outs to E-Stark on their Wigglytuff, right? We were talking about this relationship with the Saraledge and the Unite move of the Wigglytuff. That was quite literally the epitome of why you bring Wigglytuff into a Saraledge.
Listen, if Saraledge being meta is the way that I get Wigglytuff to be meta, I'll take it. Like, that is so exciting. I adore playing tank Wigglytuff. It's genuinely one of my favorite tank roles to play in the entire game. So give me more. I absolutely love it. And Engage, we might see even more from them as this tournament goes on. If we see more Wigglytuff in that look, I would not be surprised.
You know, huge shout out, by the way, to the teams that are in the playoffs right now. There have been a number of sets today that I have described as kind of a David and Goliath story, and this is definitely one of those as well. A through K, again, a Worlds qualifying team going down to Team Engage, a more community-based team, and same thing that we saw earlier today with E-Kittens, right? They're able to take down Nouns Esports, another Worlds qualifying team, and to see at least these two teams in the playoffs is absolutely exciting, Zoinks.
I totally agree. But hey, if you were a fan of Nouns Esports, don't get worried. I believe they did win their final match of Swish 2-0 over Intergovernmentalizations. So I believe that will push them into our top 4 single elimination bracket, which we will be seeing quite soon, Draku, as I believe now we have our final 4 teams. It'll be A3 and Snow, yeah, Dark E-Kittens, Team Engage. Well, hold on. Now I'm like confused on the Swiss earnings. But I think we have the 4 teams.
Yeah, Nouns Esports is going to be that last
Yes.
team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nouns,
Now-
Nouns, Engage, E-Kittens, and A3 and Snow will be our 4 teams moving into the bracket.
Yeah, and of course, the last 4 teams to play in the playoffs here is going to be vying for that $500 prize pool for the Elite Tour in July. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break before we get ready for the playoffs. Do not go anywhere. Zoinks and I will be right back.
Alright, welcome back everybody to the Unite Battle Hub Elite Tour. My name is Zoinks, joined here by Relic as we are headed into our single elimination part of the tournament. 4 teams remain, and after this round, only 2 teams will. Relic, our next matchup is going to be Nouns Esports versus A3 and Snow.
Most certainly. 3 teams in this playoff that we've already seen, so we thought we'd do our due diligence and cover the only one that we haven't. A3, an easier start to the day than they would have anticipated. Were going to face Rework Respawns, ended up with a bye, which of course naturally gives them that little bit of extra momentum to work their way into the playoffs. So the good news for them, Zoinks, is that they're in the money. The bad news is that they now have to face Nouns Esports, and although they did lose earlier to Dark E Kittens, we have to remember they are still Nouns Esports, one of the most storied orgs in the entirety of Pokemon Unite. They're kinda cracked.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch that VOD of that matchup in particular, I think there were a few moments where you're like, did they really lose? Or but anyway, I think they're eager to be bouncing back after that moment. There's a lot of EU teams within our top 4, if I remember correctly, and they're wanting to push that agenda that they are the best of the best here in this region. They've already done that in the UCS qualifiers. They got to try to do that in the Elite Tour as well. And this A3 and Snow team, while new, maybe one of the more not unheard of, but like quieter squads in this top 4. Definitely a squad that can contend with the best, and that's why they pushed themselves here to the top 4.
Yeah, I mean it's a bunch of names that no doubt a lot of you at home would have heard. It's we like to call them pickup teams because I mean a lot of them would have probably played together, but this is just one of the moments where all of them are doing so on a tournament stage. Gekko Kami, Snowless, Luca, Nachos of course, and Potato. Nachos is always one of those characters. They sure are a character, Zoinks, because just in terms of like pure raw talent, they're sensational. Yeah, I would liken them in terms of impact to Toonslim on their good days. I think they are truly the next big thing. It's always a question of the personality and how they react both inside the game and outside the game. But they've looked pretty locked in throughout their qualifier. They've looked pretty locked in today. And alongside, I mean, you know, Gekko Kami, one of the best frontliners, I think, still in EU. Potato, what a breakout season for Potato. I mean, most improved player between Season 2 and Season 3. I think they've got to be right up there. They've been sensational.
Yeah, they looked great. Yeah, I feel like maybe that improvement arc started right at the end of Season 2, potentially, right? Like, it felt like that regional final and into Worlds, Potato was looking really solid. But yeah, this year it was a tremendous performance from them. So, excited to see them playing with this squad. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Gek fan. I have been forever. One of my favorite defender players to touch the game. I am curious where roles are being allotted to, though. Relic, maybe you'll be able to fill me in. Obviously, you've seen some of these games. Potato, I assume top path and Nacho central. Is that how they're doing things?
I would think if anyone was to go central, excuse me, I would think that Nachos is the natural choice. I mean, look, if that Cereledge is up for pick, Nachos is taking that all day long in my mind. I think Potato, Gek, top path, maybe Gek going bottom path. Actually, I think maybe we might look at Snowless on bottom path as well. But to be fair, I think one of the best things about this team is that there is a little bit of flexibility. There is the opportunity to look at how the draft is progressing and allocate on the fly, which is a massive advantage, especially when you are going up against a team with a lot more hard set roles. You don't expect Gatlu, for example, to... Well, I mean, Gatlu's perhaps the worst example. He's very flexible, but you don't expect Bruv... You don't expect Bruv to go on to, I don't know, Glaceon or Italian or something.
Yes, I will absolutely agree with that. But all right, our bans are beginning for set 1 of our top 4. Cereledge and Umbreon, the ban choices for Nouns Esports. Charizard so far from A3 and Snow, and they're going to include Slowbro in that one. So a few Pokemon notably absent from our banning phase: Mimikyu, Blaziken, both options that have been dominating the competitive metagame for a couple of patches now. Nouns Esports gets their pick at the litter, and they will be going with our favorite Fire Chicken.
Somebody finally found the jail key and let them out. My goodness, they have been the most consistently banned Pokemon, not just since the patch, but well before the patch as well. I'm still a coin flip on that Charizard ban, man. I see it in some situations. I don't see it as an ever-present big threat. Mamoswine we have seen earlier today, funnily enough in the hands of Bruv actually, very nicely counters Hooper as a potential option for a Desu, who we see there, the potential double support pivot. Blissey, they're going to go with Crustle. I actually much prefer that in the face of a Mimikyu, and there is that Blissey lock into pocket, either or of the choices so far.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this Mamoswine. I mean, in my earliest days of casting, or like, I got to call Gek the Spanish Mammut, and I did it fervently and passionately, and I don't see that changing any moment. So excited to see that one again. Mamoswine's in an interesting spot, and by interesting, I guess I mean great. Like, Mamoswine's been kind of crushing it this season, and I think it makes sense on paper. To me, it just reads like a better Snorlax in almost every way. Its early game is solid, maybe not as good of Secure, but it does have a lot of impact in early game team fights. It's a great Pokemon to take space if you wanted to, or you can do that individual shutdown option with Ice Fang, which is very similar to Yawn builds of Mammoth. So I don't know, I'm here for the new Ice Age if it is going to be brought upon by the Gecko Kami Mamoswine.
Well, we're not so much doing the dinosaur as the big bird with flames. Nacho's Talonflame on Theta Sky Ruins.
The other fire flying type that's very meta.
Yes, no, yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually quite curious. I think this is a really nice ploy to look to counter the Delphox that they put down. Toonslim, of course. I would be shocked if they go against the meta Fire Spin build. But they might honestly want to go for the more maneuverable toolkit just to try and avoid this Talonflame. Brave Bird, of course, a fantastic dive tool, but it's got big risks attached to it. That Wigglytuff has been susceptibly or suspiciously more present today, but I think in a good way, because it feels like people are finally cottoning on to putting Pokemon to sleep is really useful. It's kind of like with the Snorlax Yawn build. There is actually a lot of value to be had just to pressing the pause button and being able to retreat or regroup or try, a different attack angle or something along those lines. So X-Plane's going to be the big danger factor for Nachos. Aside from that, he's got his targets, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a few hits.
Yeah, Sing's a super versatile option, right? You can engage with it, you can retreat with it. It is really solid either direction. You got to remember, it does drop the enemy defenses by, I think, like 25%, or maybe 35%. And then the plus version, that effect lasts even longer. So it is a really solid option to contend with. All that being said, Relic, I actually do think we're looking at a rollout Wigglytuff. And I only say that because X-Plane is the one locking it in, and I've seen this monster work before, Relic, and I do think that that's what we're looking at.
Sign me up, brother. Sign me up. I am here for... Of course, I think we are all eagerly awaiting.
Yes,
Fingers crossed, the Chinese beta becoming global, allowing for far more maneuverability, making this Pokemon a lot more fun to watch. But we'll see what X-Plane cooks already early cooking here of the chicken in question. BNJ has got Gatlu on tenterhooks here. Make that hooked, and they've stolen the buff. Beautiful invade. Now they're going to be rotating onto top path to try and rub salt into the wound.
Yeah, we talk about the level 4 gank from Evolutions. BNJ gonna add an additional number to that as the level 5 Sylveon starts to try to contend. Luca looking for an early stack is gonna get punished. Pink Blobs versus Pink Blobs. Quite a nightmare.
Oh, Sing going out and just pushing BNG back. It's a sensible option. It's also the option that has worked so far, and we find a double Evo with the Combusken and the Blissey, bullying BNJ, going with the Hyper Voice, but unable to escape their fate on this occasion. 11-0, 50-0 now, the first early score signs as we're 90 seconds in.
Yeah, great things looking from A3 and Snow in the bottom side of the map. That's good, though, because top side has been very difficult so far. Still on that Clefairy, not the Clefable quite yet. And now bottom side going a little bit rough as well. Mimikyu's already level 6.
Swinub perhaps biting off a little bit more than they could chew. Actually utilizing the eject button really well. Got to be careful. Still got that debuff from the now Crustle. They're going to be able to retreat out onto that Piloswine stage. And this, for me, really is the epitome of the awkward teen stage. Zoinks. I think Piloswine takes a little bit too long to get to that Mamoswine. It puts a lot of players off, but not being put off at all is Nachos, who dives straight into the middle of the action, forcing out the eject button from the Combusken.
Oh, Potato Shadow Sneak just a little shy of getting that full attachment as well. Fight continues on. That will be the Blaziken evolution. Gatlu threads the needle, makes it through. I mean, as the rest of their team is falling down everywhere, Gatlu is able to secure a KO and the evolution, but being trapped by Gecko Kami is making things rough. Bruff is there for the save, but Bruff will lose their life in the process.
That's a categorical W for A3 in Snow, and they've rotated down, completely mows up the clouds. Ooh, Gecko Kami, a little close for comfort, moves back onto base. They've left, who's that up there? They've left that Sylveon. They've left BNJ up on top. Path provides a bit of vision, sees that only the Wigglytuff is there, but it feels like we are going to prioritize this bottom Reggie first and foremost, especially with no tier 1 zones broken for the moment.
Ooh, Luca is on the follow me build. It's going Moonlight as well. Unfortunately, no Draining Kiss, despite the buffs happening. Gatlu does take quite a bit of damage. It is a Brave Bird in the backline, but will not grab that Delphox.
It's a big old whiff, but the fly plan still has something to land. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of damage dealt though. Bruv in the center of it all. We've got ourselves a Mimikyu caught up in the fire spin. Overheat looking for the secure. It's the Talonflame with the double secure, however. But check out the Blaziken catches too. Throwing hands, but the Piloswine's caught them out. Ice Fang KO.
Gecko Kami with the grab. I personally love that Ice Fang, and this Piloswine can hang. I know we were talking about before about how it's a Pokemon that does take exceptionally long to evolve. Its Unite move takes forever to achieve, but the Piloswine is a very tanky Pokemon, and it can survive a lot, so great work in the early game. Nouns Esports catching out that rotation, though, will knock out Luca and send that Clefairy back to base.
And Nouns not looking too hot on the level situation, understandably so, given that they've lost the team fight now, they've lost a Reggie, but they are on hand to try and take down this Regieleki, X-Blade, and Gatlu there. But here comes BNJ, here comes that Talonflame, here comes Nachos forcing out the Starlight Recital. Fly activated a little early for my liking, and this should be the overheat secure. It is indeed. Catches one, Clefable up against the wall, Clefable down in the ground. Fairy Frolic, there's the health regen. Nachos looking to go in on the Blaziken, misses that, was prioritizing the Wigglytuff. Not a bad call. That Blaziken's forced all the way back, gives BNG plenty of time to dispel that Regieleki.
Yeah, Sylveon doing Sylveon things, right?
Yes.
That Unite move is so fantastic. It's just there. I call it the get out of jail free card. Immediately dodge. Nice eject button to land on two. Get the cooldown with the Unite move. Gonna be shut down by Adesu's Blitz assistance, but that's a trade of Unites I think you're very happy about. Talonflame for Blissey, I think I take that every day of the week.
Absolutely. Those support Unites are so... especially when we're considering... that, oh, what a great fight for the Shadow Sneak, by the way. Not that they're going to activate it, but Flame Sweep is hardly the best move. At the best of times, it doesn't do a particular lot of damage. I'd argue it's much more crowd control Unite move than the Unite move that you look for KOs off the back of. Nevertheless, it's, there's time at least, or well, as much time as you can find it. Pokemon Unite, Rubble Rouser popped. Come play with me. Find yourself KO'd, Mr. Delphox, but there's help on the way. Gatlu got those trophies flashing above their head. I mean, listen, story player, extremely important player, but that overheat didn't do as much damage as they were hoping for, and Nacho's not willing to fully commit. Bottom Reggie is back on the field.
This Mimikyu is one of the most potent options in the A3 and Snow composition. I mean, it's able to get around these Crustle walls so easily, and with no Clefairy on the other side to really gravity shut it down, Potato's able to get to work so far in the enemy backline.
Oh, that's another big flame sweep, and they do catch Gatlu, but they don't catch Gatlu enough! Blaziken with the confirm, and great fire spin and magical fireworks placed down by Toonslim. It's so strange to see Toonslim more as the supporting attacker rather than leading from the front, at least in my mind. But check out these numbers, boss. 3 KO streak. Yeah, Nachos managed to pick up the Blissey, and that made that a 4 KO streak. Looking for the full ace, but they're not going to be able to dunk that 50, not in a million years.
Oh, that fire spin was just a little bit earlier. Maybe we see the Penta out of Toonslim, but then again, I don't think Nachos is going to let that happen to them too easily, especially when they're on the Talonflame. So now Esports back on the board in a major way. They were doing great score-wise for quite a while. Level-wise, like you mentioned, they were struggling, but now with Toonslim and Gatlu at level 13, they are vastly ahead. Yes, maybe their support and defensive core isn't quite up to the level of A3 and Snow. Those are Pokemon you're not too worried about the levels. Fly versus Overheat. And it will go to, I think, the boosted auto of Gatlu after the overheat to take out that Regieleki.
You can just feel the tides are turning, and there the Mimikyu caught out as well. Not seen too much since the Pylo Swine stage, I should say, from Gecko Kami, who's caught in a spin. Fanciful Fireworks, very quick recharging Unite move, so they can't afford to burn it at 45 seconds. Nacho's desperate to find this KO. They do so, but now they're going to get bullied into a wall. Flame Sweep at this point just to escape, to be fair. Not the best move to have in the Ray Pit, Zoink, so if there was any Unite move that I wouldn't mind not having, it would probably be that one.
Yeah, a lot of walls in that Ray Pit, famously, which Talonflame loves to find. But, ooh, an early engagement. Gatlu's actually going to dodge the other way with their Blaze Kick, but the overheat's what brings them back into the mix. Gecko Kami jumps towards Brav HE. That is an eject button lost from the Crustle. An important bit of cooldown to make sure that they're keeping track of. And now it is going to be a pivot for the final stretch. Only the Delphox and the Talonflame missing their Unite moves, but both those Pokemon do earn them rather quick. Nacho's farming on the top side to make sure that bird is back in a major way.
Now Fanciful Fireworks are there, and my goodness, they go down immediately. Now Esports is going for the rip, and they're going for the rip hard, but here goes into the middle. Gecko Kami don't matter. Nouns Esports surrounded the Ray, and by the time they let A3 and Snow have a peek into the Ray Pit, it was gone.
When you have vision, you know the Talonflame is not near that final pit. The only real contention of a secure tool on the other side. A great call out by them. They know Nachos is going to be farming that Unite move. They take the pivot towards the Rayquaza. They have Wigglytuff to cleanse any crowd control to try to stop their secure options in the Blaziken or the Delphox, and they're able to play around that perfectly. Honestly, picture perfect Ray fight by Nouns Esports. It might be a risk to take the Ray, but they were definitely favored in that risk option.
Tactically speaking, one of my favorite teams to watch, and we did see that. You rightly pointed it out earlier. Despite losing 2-1 to Dark E-Kittens, it felt like both of their game losses were very much steals from the E-Kittens. The problem being for Nouns Esports now is that there's a lot of time left on this clock. 29 seconds for the Delphox respawn. Crustle still got 6 seconds behind, but there is a lot of points to try and traverse, and that Blaziken is scoring more. 742, I should say, for the purple side. 255 in 30 seconds. I think this is too tall a mountain to climb.
Yeah, I think so too. Our math might have been a little off in that tier 1 as well. However, I hardly think it's relevant at the moment. This would be a need to be a completely dominant team fight win for A3 and Snow if this fight is going to have a hope of turning around. And even then, only 10 seconds left in this match. I think the clock might be the greatest ally that Nouns Esports has in these final moments, as Gatlu takes down Nachos. Blaine gets a KO on the board as well as Luco falls. Potato gets the revenge knockout, but that's it. Nouns Esports gonna start this series 1-0.
Really convincing as well for me, Zoinks. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Nouns were particularly definitively behind us, aside from perhaps the level situation where, you know, they lose out on a team fight, they lose out on one Reggie, but even then, it was so early in the game. How large an impact that has really depends on how the team reacts immediately thereafter. And I think that how they reacted should be given all the aplomb it deserves, because by the time we reach that Ray Pit, we're thinking it's probably theirs to lose. And especially when you've got the extra vision, like you mentioned, about Nachos clearly isn't here. What a great call.
I like what Nouns Esports is doing, and again, just that safety net of Wigglytuff. Like, if you try to Ice Fang our Blaziken, I'm just gonna Wiggly Cleanse, and we're gonna be fine in that situation. It's not exactly a pin, like a perfect shutdown option, but like I mentioned before, it is a risky option, but definitely one that favors your team in every way. And well, Nouns Esports, very familiar in those kind of niche situations and having the clutch factor to pull it off. I love it. Toon Slim on this Delphox looked amazing as well. That Fire Spin Fire Blast looked really solid. Into the face of a Mimikyu and a Talonflame, it can't be scary to be a Delphox, but you even saw Toon Slim making correct decisions. Even if they were going to get knocked out, just dropping a Fire Blast directly on their body. You know, you might take me, but at least you're going to be at minimum half HP before you escape from this fight. So, good looks across the board.
You know, this is potentially the greatest praise that we can put onto that Nouns Esports front line. We barely mentioned Potato, you know, for a Pokemon that is so scary. So scary, especially a backline poke. Those Delphoxes are usually so fearful of having to watch out for the Shadow Sneaks, but every time we saw that Shadow Sneak hit, For Toon Slim, it's like, okay, let me just step back one. Oh, look, I'm on the pad. Do you really want to try and get me while I'm here and I've got my buddies behind me as well? Otherwise, more times than not, that Shadow Sneak was either whiffing because they were trying to thread a needle, or they were just hitting the Mamoswine or the Wigglytuff. And then if you hit the Wigglytuff, hey, guess what? Sing, you might get KO'd if you actually commit to this play. So I think all round, beautifully executed game plan from Nouns Esports. I think it worked a treat. Whether they're able to repeat that in the second game, again, up for debate. Is what we love about draft, is you have that ability to tinker, to change, to try and take the series by the scruff of the neck, whether you're ahead or not. So that really leads into the next question of what do A3 and Snow do from here? Because I wouldn't say that composition was particularly bad, but I definitely do think that there are some picks where, I mean, take that Talonflame, for example. Was that the right call going into a Wiggly? Maybe, maybe not.
I don't even know if the Talonflame loses to Wiggly necessarily. I think it's more the backup that they just didn't have, right? They're going with this. They're going with two Pokemon that excel at executing, with Mimikyu and Talonflame both. And the problem with executing is you need that upfront early damage to really swing those team fights in your favor. And while Sylveon is extremely strong, Hyper Voice is a great look into the composition on the other side. It felt like alone, Sylveon just wasn't doing enough of that early damage for Talonflame and Mimikyu to close the gap. So if anything, I would like to see maybe another Mage or a more consistent performing all-rounder into the mix from A3 and Snow. And I will say, I'm glad they made this decision. We'll get the names corrected on screen in just a moment, but what I love is that first decision made by A3 and Snow is to take first pick. I cannot express how much I love first pick, Relic. I am very happy that they are leaning that direction.
They have the opportunity to steal something, but what do they have their eyes on? Charizard ban, Ceruledge ban. They really do not want to see Potato Uwu on the most potent all-rounder, in my opinion at least, currently in the game in terms of pure damage output. Mimikyu, also banned. I think that's a great choice from A3. Potato was good on Mimikyu, but they really don't want to give it over to Nouns. Blaziken, the final ban, so we won't be seeing that this time around. But A3 have limited the options. They could go for a steal. They could look to go for the Slowbro potentially that we didn't see. And we see them. They've floated. They've moved around and they have locked that in. Gecko Kami Slowbro is back.
Yeah, I think that would be my first pick in this position as well. There's certainly other defenders and first pick opportunities in this realm of draft pick that would be solid and could hold up to it. I think Umbreon, notably, option there. Blissey, potentially, maybe even Hoopa. But I do think that Slowbro first pick makes a ton of sense. It's just so incredibly strong. They're going to lock up that Inteleon. I think picking it early is definitely favoring Blaine. I know Blaine in this attacker role for this team. We saw him on Wigglytuff before, and Wigglytuff attacker. But I do think that Inteleon has been one of their main options. I saw it hovered for a moment. Phalanx would be what I would desperately chase after in this draft from A3 and Snow. I love its matchup into Inteleon. The ability to ignore critical hits release, reduce their damage. It's an unbelievable counter to that sniper.
Yeah, the problem is that Phalanx itself is, and especially after the patch, easily countered itself in the right conditions. So I'm not surprised that we don't see just them holding off here, A3, on the Phalanx pick, just waiting for that last phase of draft. Cram and Hooper picked in the meantime, of course. Bruv going for the Snorlax, and it looks like we're going to have this backed up by... No, we are not. That is a really smart choice in my mind. Get that Venusaur locked in immediately. Say, go on, pick the Phalanx. See how that works for you.
Yeah, it is a clever adaptation. I don't mind that at all. Potato actually going to hover over the... they're on the Metagross for a moment, but actually going to be changing up their option here at last second. One Pokemon that is locked in, though, is Nachos' Dodrio. Dodrio, Pokemon we have not seen very much as of recently, hitting yet another nerf in the most recent patch. Obviously, somebody hates Dodrio over there at Timmy, but... They really do. It is going to be the Gyarados final option for Nouns Esports. Hovering this arena for a moment, maybe the Blaziken, maybe something else entirely, and it will be a last second selection of the Metagross. Going into Gyarados, your options definitely open up quite a bit. Relic, the early game of Magikarp is certainly not award-winning worthy, so you can really run anything in the early game. You know, who cares? If it's slow, it's definitely not slower than Magikarp, so you can run that Metagross and definitely feel confident in it.
Yeah, of course. It's not ranked at least, so you're not going to have to wait, I don't know, half the game before the Magikarp evolves.
Yeah, it's true.
And of course, the payoff is that you've effectively got a hyperscaler at the price of one evolution, which is very nice indeed. And you get such powerful moves immediately upon
Both of them,
evolving
right?
as well. Like, you literally just launch into an all-out assault. 9 times out of 10, it's going to give dividends. I am really interested in the thinking behind that Metagross. As we catch there at the end, the switching around the roles is going to be Toon Slim on them. I don't think I've ever seen Toon Slim on a Metagross before. He's Toon Slim, so I imagine he's going to be pretty good. But I just look at the other option of potentially a Buzzwole, and I'm looking at Buzzwole, direct counter Gyarados, kinda direct counter Dodrio if it can get a hold of it. Obviously, with the ability to chuck any Pokemon off a hyperspace portal as well. Better early game. I'm just questioning why. The thinking behind the Metagross when there are more obvious choices to go for, at least in my mind.
I think it's mostly... I love the Blissey pairing with Metagross. Honestly, when Nouns Esports have built this composition, it feels like foundational around that support of the Blissey. Inteleon maybe withstanding and just kind of, that can be alone and do its own thing, but Blissey Unite onto either the Venusaur, the Metagross, or the Snorlax, all feel, you're not going to ult the Snorlax, but the Venusaur or the Metagross are both great options. And what Nouns Esports has built essentially a Death Ball composition, where it might not be as better suited for all-around fights throughout the game, like maybe a Buzzwole would give them access to. Now in the late game, they have the strategy of run at them, and it is very difficult to beat that. When it is Metagross and a Venusaur and Snorlax and a Blissey's ulting one of those, when they're running at you, that is very difficult to withstand. So I like this composition. It is all in, I will grant it that, but I kind of like the direction they're pushing it all into.
Feels like we're taking a trip to the movie theater to go and watch Twisters. The question is, how long is that journey, or will we run out of fuel before we get to the theater?
Is Glenn Powell in this game? I'm down.
Guest caster, maybe? Battle Hub way?
Let's go!
Let's go on this push as well. Nouns Esports going with 3 versus 2, of course. I say 3 versus 2, 3 versus 1.5. Make that 3 versus 2.5. The Magikarp taking a lot of damage. Dodrio picking up a lot of shielding. That's a lovely wrap up and bringing a Matang into their town. And Desu pocketing this Matang, but again, no let up from Nachos. They're gonna pick up this KO on Toon Slim, and there's that Evo, not 1 minute 30 quite, but just shy of 2 minutes. Potato Woo Woo and the Trick Hooper. Ooh, that is spicy.
Yeah, with Gyarados and Dodrio, I love that synergy, being able to play around with that Trick Hoopa. You might not use it with the Sobro as much, but then again, Gek and Luke have been playing together for quite some time. Toon Slim does defend their own central area. Nachos will get KO'd. That doesn't even bring Toon Slim to 7, so very slow leveling for this Metagross. I say that, level 7 at 8 minutes is still pretty solid, but won't be able to join that mid-fight. All of that will be going to A3 and Snow.
Keeping an eye on BNJ's Cramorant as well. Important for them to stay on top of the level situation. A very important disruptive attacker. Level 7, joint lead in the lobby alongside Nachos, who's just joined him there on A3 in Snow. And that Matang Toon Slim surf into the aforementioned Toon Slim, who goes after the big burb. Oh man, into the out of the frying pan and into another one. Burned by the body slam of the Snorlax, who's looking to try and pick up 2 for the price of 1. Nachos able to avoid that with his maneuverability. Anti-Cavachans rotate down here onto the bottom path as that Inteleon comes online, looking to set up yet again for this first Reggie phase.
That's my favorite phrase of all time. Out of the frying pan and into another one. I think that is exactly what the phrase should be, at the very least. But so far, this Death Ball composition has kind of been working. We haven't hit our final evolutions, and I'm saying that. We're now seeing a Metagross and a Venusaur on either side. So we're starting to unlock the potential of this composition. Snorlax is going to isolate the Cramorant first. Metagross gets the chase down, but not enough for the KO. But at least they have bought all the space they could have ever desired around this Regice.
Gekko is still poking. Nouns Esports eager to sign off the contract on this Reg Ice, but A3 and Snow making it far more difficult. Computer crash, and they have caught the Hooper. Oh, again, brilliant usage of Phantom Force to get themselves out of there! Oh, what I say a steal from the Snorlax. It was very well timed. Nouns did have the numbers advantage, and now A3 and Snow force onto the defense. Triple trample in there, picks up the Snorlax, and also the Inteleon, looking for the third, but it's a big, beefy Metagross, backed up by the Blissey as well. 30 score on top off, would you believe? That's increased their score from 7 into the points. A very low scoring game early doors, Zonks.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, stacking is at an all-time low between these two teams, but the good news is Nachos on this Dodrio has already been making their mark on this matchup. At least good news for A3 and Snow. In that early team fight, Announce Esports is kind of dominating, but you gotta always be wondering, where is Nachos? Because as soon as they arrive, that team fight can swing either direction. In the case of A3 and Snow, they might have not gotten the objective, but certainly a good look for them so far. This trick giving them a ton of support. We saw that in the early game already. I'm sure we're going to see that a little bit more as the game progresses.
Oh, what a great fight! Sorry, I hope we got that on replay. B&J with the warding hurricane that picks up Toon Slim, who's not able to get in on the Regieleki. That is phenomenal. Almost as phenomenal as this dive into the Unite move with the Gyarados Bliss assistance. Protects the Inteleon who pops the ASV. We've got ourselves a Hooper who's gone nowhere really. Inteleon into the ground. Hooper is going to be taken down by the Inteleon eventually, so a bit of an eye for an eye on that one. Meanwhile, this Regieleki still knocking on the door, but they're not going to find a way through. This Gatlu build is all about sustain on the Venusaur. Giga Drain, Petal Dance, prepared for the Phalanx, ready for anything. Into the compute and crash. They're going to claim the Slowbro here, Toon Slim, as they look for a response onto the T1 for purple.
Yeah. All right, I mean, the fight is continuing onto the enemy side, but right now it's favoring Nouns Esports. Finally, the Venusaur is low enough for BNJ to get that KO, and things start turning around a little bit for A3 and Snow. Potato tries to jump back in. It's a big shield they gain with that bounce, and Dragon Breath starts carving through the entire enemy team, and A3 and Snow with the big-time response. Brove is on the run, will make it back to the goal zone, but all they're going to be able to do is buy a few seconds of time. Venusaur is there, but the slow beam will prevent them from using any of their HP restoration moves, and A3 and Snow collapse and break that goal zone. Relic, at first, I hated that fight they were taking on the top side. I like a great engage by Gyarados, but they don't have the Hoopa Unite move to really back them up in that moment. I really didn't think they were going to have the firepower, but then Nouns takes their turn at overextending onto the enemy goal zone, and a great response from them, so I guess all's well that ends well. A3 and Snow wins that team fight on the top side of the map.
That was a real tug of war, and you can see the difference with Nachos now up to level 13. The Gyarados, of course, crucially onto level 12. The more levels they can find, the better. Unfortunately for A3 and Snow, Nouns have secured the Registeel, so that's going to equalize this experience situation. Lovely use of the Unite move, although to be fair, I don't know whether they knew too much about it, escaping the range of the snipe shot, now using the bounce to disengage as they're caught out. Never mind, computer crash. Yep, that's going to be the end of that Gyarados. 18-second respawn timer for you, and B&J's going to caught out 2 for the price of 1. Hooper now forced back. Nacho's going in with a triple trample, just looking to disrupt anything. A lot of resources going in to take down this T1 zone. Nouns Esports, you got the Verdant Anger moving out as well. Very low health. Desu desperately shoving eggs into the mouth of this Venusaur to try and keep it alive. They're gonna keep alive. They're gonna score the 35 points. It's a minor points lead. Look at the shielding from the Gyro Ball. Toon Slim deep in enemy territory. It's the Inteleon with another pick off, this time on BNJ again. The Gyarados goes down again. Nouns Esports finding momentum, but before they oversell themselves this time, Zoinks, they've decided to head back and focus on prioritizing the Ray position.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of slowing down Potato in these team fights. I mean, they're level 12 before the 3-minute mark. Normally, you'd love to see Gyarados at 13, but you just watch how Bro perfectly isolates that Pokemon. I mean, when Gyarados is at low HP, they have options to win those fights, right? Bounce can channel the Unstoppable to escape, Dragon Breath, and doing a few of those auto attacks that maybe get their HP back, but the Yawns and the Heavy Slams have been really well timed from Bro on this Snorlax to make sure that Potato is getting KO'd when they need to and stopping any of those other escape options that I just mentioned. So really good isolation so far, but now they're going to need to continue to do it as we hit the final stretch, the most important time of our map. And and now we're going to have to see if the Snorlax can pull it off yet again. Nachos on that back cap angle, and ooh, big snipe shot from Blaine to kick things off.
Be very careful here. Nouns Esports win, and they are through to the grand finals. Lose, and they are going into a game 3 that they really do not want to find themselves in. A3 and Snow, we've seen before, can prove themselves very mighty customers indeed in the realm of comebacks. Ooh, everyone very much clumped up though. ASV popped, and this is a big push from Nachos. Oh my goodness, who got it? It was A3 and Snow. It was Nachos with a Giga Chad play.
Wow, all right. I mean, I don't even know when we turned on the Ray, but at some point we decided to do so, and A3 and Snow going to collapse and secure the objective, and now the scores are going to be raining in. Hundo Burgers, and in the case of Dodreo, a few extra for the combos. Potato and Luca now going to charge towards that enemy goal zone. Trick is there for Gyarados to get a quick escape tool, and they will use it, in fact, and make it out of there. As A3 and Snow really dominate that final section. One of my favorite moments in that final team fight, Relic, was when they had the Surf stop, or the Snorlax stop the Cramorant, big Heavy Slam and Yawn combination. Toonslim could not get there to finish the knockout, though, because of a perfect Surf from Gek Okami to heal for their enemy, for their own teammates. It was a really good look, but across the board, I guess the best look was Rayquaza's here from A3 and Snow.
I think what really just speaks to me on this particular fight, Zoinks, is this not exactly what Nouns Esports did to A3 and Snow 10 minutes ago? They took the opportunity, they caught Nouns napping, quite frankly. I don't think anybody was expecting the audacity of Nachos to steam in with the triple trample, catch 3 on the return drill peck into the center of that Ray pit. And it was a coin flip, but it was a coin flip that A3 were in control of. And they forced a game 3 in the most spectacular of fashions.
Yeah, it feels like we're 2 for 2 on things like that, you know what I mean? Like, we are on situations where Rayquaza might be a flippant angle, but it is a favored angle. And now we have A3 and Snow and Nouns Esports headed to a final Game 3 to determine who will be moving on to our finals. Gatlu on the Venusaur, only 1 KO in this match, but that's okay. Toonslim was holding it down with 6 knockouts on the Metagross, Blaine on 3. Good looks across the board, but Nachos, 83,000 damage on this Dodrio. They are such a difference maker on literally whatever Pokemon they play, Relic. Zeraora, Dodrio, no, maybe not in the Talonflame, but everything other than that, looking fantastic.
I think anytime we get to look at this player, it is fantastic. And I do hope that eventually we will get to see them in UCS. But we got to see out the ending of this game and indeed the grand finals to come. All of that on your screens, folks, after this. Well, that is 3 out of 4 then on stream, where we're heading to game number 3. It's Relic and Zoinks on the call. And Nouns Esports, well, any hopes that they had of making it a quick 2-0 sweep were very swiftly dashed by an A3 and Snow squad that basically said, okay, here's your own medicine, flip the Ray, and here we are, Zoinks. They've got the momentum. Now, can they carry that forward to present a real shock and a grand finals appearance?
Ooh, I don't know. And I mean, we talked so much about that. Now that I've seen these players in action and remember their roster, I'm like, is it really that much of a shock? You know what I mean?
It's a good roster, yes.
These players are so good. Nouns Esports, though, obviously strong contenders. I mean, a large part of this A3 and Snow roster made it to semifinals in the EU regional qualifier. A bit of a heartbreak run from them to be that close to the World Championships, but just shy of it. But all that being said, that was forever ago. At this point, we're looking at new meta, new teams, new environment that we are in the Elite Tour. I believe this is Volume 2 of the Elite Tour. I think Volume 3 of the Elite Tour.
Yes.
I'm losing count at this point in time. And I know you don't call them volumes, and I did decide to just do that.
No. I am calling them volumes because you wanted to call them volumes. I think it's fair.
Perfect.
We've had a month
All right.
break. They're volumes now.
Yeah, we get rid of seasons. We're volumes now. All right. Let's get into game number 3. The Sarah Ledge will be immediately banned. I know we've even seen evidence of it in this tournament so far today, Relic, about how that Wiggly Tough can be the hardest counter to this Saru Ledge. It seems like even despite that, we're not seeing it out of the ban phase, at least not in this matchup in particular. Slowbro, Sarah Ledge, Umbreon banned away. Will the Charizard or the Mimikyu get banned? Honestly, it feels like the final question, and right now, the hard pivot away from Mimikyu, but it will be the Charizard receiving that ban.
If I'm Nouns Esports after that hover on Mimikyu for so long, I'm just locking in Mimikyu immediately. I don't care.
100%.
That just feels like a no-brainer to me. Or alternatively, look, I love Blaziken. I think that Mimikyu is just such a stronger early game and that it's worth locking in over the Blaziken. And now you can see the consequences of their actions. A3 saying, okay, Potato, here's your favorite toy, go play. And going for the Mamoswine Gecko Kami again.
Yeah. Okay, so clearly this is A3 and Snow's answer to the Blaziken, right?
Yes.
I mean, we've now seen it 2 for 2. The response of Blaziken will be the Mamo. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm aligned, Relic, on the Blaziken versus Mimikyu lineup. I think they're both extremely strong and have their own strengths and weaknesses, but I don't know. Blaziken might just be the more consistent performer, so my heart always leans towards the heavy consistency options. But either way, they're both extremely strong. That's why we see them being first picked on either side. Desu will be locking in that Blissey yet again, one of my favorite options, and even more so when the Umbreon is banned and not available to steal those shields.
Yeah, it's just safe. It's a good, solid option that is going to work. Hello, Comfey. Right, that's a variant. So presumably they're going to... I mean, they have options, really. They can rotate around BNJ on the Sylveon. Obviously, they've got a good option with Potato and gives Potato extra coverage as well. One of the big problems in game number 1 is that they were throwing out Shadow Sneaks, but they couldn't activate it. Otherwise, they were going to get taken down anyway. So having that comfy safety blanket is a really nice option. And Nachos looks like they're going to be leaning towards that Dodrio again, which, of course, let's not forget, won them the game.
Right.
Problem this time, of course, is that they got a Mr. Mime, presumably with walls, which makes their job a lot harder. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Zeraora's back. Let's go.
And just like that, my brain has to wonder if it's a Sweet Kiss Comfey. You know? As soon as Zeraora is locked. I mean, Zeraora and Mimikyu are both Pokemon that absolutely profit off of the Sweet Kiss Comfey. So I honestly, now I'm fully committed to the idea of that is what we are going to be seeing. Alongside, of course, the Sylveon and Mamoswine is filling out this roster. I really like A3 and Snow's composition. I mean, Zeraora, it's not really fair to call it unpopular or off meta anymore. We've seen it in so many tournaments, particularly from Nachos, making it look great. And on Nouns Esports, it will be another run of this Inteleon. This time it will be piloted by Toonslim, though. Blaine going to be picking up the Mr. Mime role. No EXP share shown on that Pokemon. It will be essentially attacker Mr. Mime, running the stacking specs, cursed incense, and the focus bands. And last second swaps on those items.
This might out me, Relic doesn't know anything about Pokemon Unite, but hear me out. I'm going to attempt to cook. Is Liquidation so bad, Zoinks, that it is not valid or valuable going into this composition? Because I look at Snipe Shot and I think, yes, great objective secure. Yes, it's going to take a chunk out of the Mamo. But that is a very maneuverable team. You don't even think about the Comfey because it's going to be on someone at most of the time.
Yeah. I actually think Comfey might be the biggest reason to not play Liquidation, honestly. It works. Liquidation works similar to Glaceon, right? With the spears, they'll chase you down forever. Comfey's one of the best options to pop off, absorb all those hits, and then pop right back on to whoever they're following. It's a really nasty combo to block some of those things. So, but the same could be said about Snipe Shot. Really good Comfey players are pretty smart about when they can try to block hits and when they just can't. So I'm not sure. You know, to be fair, I don't think Liquidation is terrible. Well, I don't think it's great either, though. So I think that's where I gotta land.
Okay.
Somewhere in the middle, yeah. I don't know if okay is gonna cut it in top 4 of Elite Tour.
I do appreciate the slow smoke as well. Not seen nearly enough as I would like personally a top level play, but hey, look, the quality of X speed and eject button and X attack now with the all-rounder meta are certainly far more of a reason to take those onto the battlefield. Ooh, Volt Switch, they were looking for that quick 12 dunk. A little too much Eos energy in pocket, however, and again using that Volt Switch beautifully. Got ourselves a Vine Whip after Gatlu. Any KOs will do at this point, but they've also got to focus on the Clouds. Again, looking to go after the Combusken. They still can't find the KOs, but at least it was a distraction. The majority of that EXP going to A3 and Snow.
Whew, that is a scary level 5. Zeraora and Mimikyu, like, that is a terrifying path to have to deal with. However, Toonslim, really scary at any point during the game. Sobble and Drizzile absolutely can deal some damage, and already we have Toonslim proving that in the early game, as I believe they get the K opener. An early moment going the way of Nouns Esports right now.
Loving this, loving the warding from Luca, just giving information to their home base of Nachos as they roam around the map looking for any EXP that they can find. Level 6s we've reached now between that Zera, that Mimikyu, the Combusken, and the Drizzile, who's just taken the lead of the lobby with that Evo onto Inteleon, immediately starting to go after Luca, who's got BNJ here, can hook onto them. It's currently 2v3, that Crustal providing decent support as everyone goes back to their own corners and thinks about what they've done.
Yeah, timeout. And in fact, timeout to the point of points as well, I suppose. 0-0. We were talking about how the last game was a low-scoring game that we saw between these two teams, and now we're actually seeing a full stalemate. Donuts on either side. Now, Gatlu at level 7 is a very formidable threat. Does not have access to form change, but it's Zeraora who strikes first.
And look at that, a miscue on the overheat. Of course, wanting to maximize the damage, but they wait a little bit too long, so that's a lot of free scores that A3 get in there as well. That discharge is nasty and abandoned post, it seems like. That T1 is cracked from 0-0 to 0-112. They have control of the bottom path if they want it. They're just going to leave BNJ down there. A risk, but they want to confirm that Regieleki as well.
Yeah, or at least have a chance of showcasing it, and even if they lose the Regieleki, having opportunity to defend it in time. This Registeel will go down quite quick, though. You have Gecko Kami tanking and taking aggro of that wild Pokemon, and Sylveon doing all the damage, and that will be a attack buff that Nachos can now utilize with their own Unite move as they strike in, and Teleon will take the Regieleki, but the team fight is far from over.
Yeah, the slow smoke it feels like it's only going to delay the inevitable. Azure Spy Vision popped here as well. And talk about abandoning post. Well, A3 and Snow don't have much to shout about either. It's how much score do you want to overdunk with. So that's what, 29 points, I think, overdunk. Narrows the gap to just 3. It's another KO onto that Blissey, courtesy of BNJ, a 2 KO streak. And there's Nachos going into the back line to take down the Power Swap Mr. Mime. Power Swap making a lot of sense to me, Zoinks, especially as it's a far more aggressive build than we'd usually see.
Yeah, and who knows? You power swap a Comfey, pocketed something that's in, well, I mean, you could try to shut them down with that, maybe. I don't know. This Comfey is really going to prove to be a tough thing for Nouns Esports to answer to. Maybe the power swap could be the answer in that particular spot. Gatlu at level 10, Bruv only at level 8, but they at least are out-leveling their opposing Piloswine, at least by a little bit, because they are tied up right now. Piloswine trying to find that level 9 for the Unite move. like we were talking earlier, Adesu, yeesh! That Hyper Voice cuts them through so quickly, not to mention that Registeel buff making that job a little bit faster.
It just feels like we're teetering on the edge, aren't we? A3 and Snow have the capacity to start to truly pull ahead in terms of levels, but that points lead is still ever so slender, and they would like to build a little bit more of a gap before we look towards that final 2 minutes. That's what we're going to see, at least with a little charge on bottom path, 15 score, and that leads into the evolution onto the Mamoswine. Mime, oh my goodness, brought back with the Volt Switch, has to pop the Showtime just to try and save itself. Oh, talk about setting it up on a T. Big poke, big takedown from the Inteleon snipe shot, forces Nachos to retreat, lick at his wounds.
Really clever Unite move from Blaine on that Mr. Mime. Those little micro stuns made it impossible for Comfey to try to reattach to the Zeraora, even though I think they're within range, but nice Ice Fang putting them on the other side of the wall. Good coverage by Blaine, though, that double support composition doing its job, making that Inteleon get out of a very dangerous situation, and in fact, able to turn around the knockout. It's Gecko Kami who goes down, but both defenders are traded.
I can understand completely Nouns Esports' interest in this Registeel. There's still a T1 zone to be cracked, and it will be, but that's just the T1. There is the Registeel into the hands of Nouns Esports, who now have those attacking buffs, but never mind that. Nachos is the buff. 2 KO streak, looking for a third. Overheat, gotta watch out. Mamoswine, Gecko Kami with the lockdown, and there to clean up. It's Nachos with the 3. It's a team ace between the two.
Impressive, and not to mention Potato on this Mimikyu was able to dunk some scores on that top side and clean up that top tier goal zone. So A3 and Snow with a lot of forward aggressive pressure, but I think in that last team fight we're even seeing clues of why that is necessary for them to do. And Inteleon and Blaziken is incredible objective secure. They are going to need to play this team fight around Rayquaza very aggressively in a way that Nouns Esports won't even have an option to try to rip that Rayquaza, because if they do, they are extremely favored on that Ray.
Yo, Nouns Esports want blood. They want blood. They were hounding after Nachos, and I don't think they're going to take no for an answer on this T1. Mind you, now the battlements are in place. Oh, but never mind me, because Blaziken's getting to work. Okay, Nachos has taken down the support. Well, guess what? They've taken down the Mime as well. Maybe they shouldn't have turned around. Maybe they were thinking a little too naively, because yet again, Nachos is unstoppable.
Oh, this Comfey collar that they got alongside, but honestly, it's these Volt Switch pulls that are devastating for Nouns Esports. Yes, they have a Blissey and a Mr. Mime for support, Crustle for coverage, but all of that is, like, just rendered useless when you're pulling a target all the way to your own backline, where Mime or Blissey can't provide any kind of support. It is a very, very clever play by A3 and Snow. It is a difficult Pokemon to master in this Zeraora, but Nachos has clearly done it. Level 15 right before our final stretch.
That is ominous, and they've got a window to take down the Regieleki as well, and Nouns Esports are very well aware of that. Look at them as they converge on this top path. This could be a possibility to take the team fight now. Blaziken with the steal. That's absolutely huge. Even more huge is the fact that Nachos and Luca are both gone. 30-second respawn timer. Nouns Esports might just have caught A3 with their pants down.
Oh, things aren't looking too good for our heroes. Unless, of course, Nouns Esports fill that role in your own narrative as Mamoswine tries to buy a little bit of time. The Mammoth Rampage knocking up a few targets. Rayquaza already below half HP. Blaziken, Inteleon both untouched. And the dive from the Mamo is just a little shy. It's Bruv who picks up the Ray? Question mark. But either way, they're going to be just fine in that situation. Potato does break one shield, but that will not be enough as Blaine is boasting a full Rayquaza shield and a hundo burger to boot.
3-4-5 to 218. Again, it's a very early Ray rip, and Nachos is still level 15. That is not an insignificant factor here as we enter endgame. A3 tournament lives on the line. Everybody on line, but that will include Bruv on the Crustle as well, who will be ready to support on the backline. But check this out. Nouns Esports have got the Hoover out, Zoinks. They want to score more.
Yeah, and both Blissey and the Mr. Mime have that AO synergy in pocket. Blaine actually making the play call to retreat and defend these goal zones as A3 and Snow are finally stepping up. Mamoswine going to be the first one to land. Very good decision. But Bruv knocking them off, and the damage already swinging it for Nouns Esports. Potato trying to shut down the Mr. Mime, though.
don't think they're going to be able to have too much more success from here on out, because quite frankly that shielding was way too much to eat through for the Mimikyu, not so much for the Inteleon, and this spirited effort has been completely dismissed. Another team ace, this time between Gatlu and X-Plane. 503 to 218. No one at home to defend this extra hundo burger served up hot and fresh on the bottom path. We thought it might have been Nacho's day, but get the guac, get the salsa zoinks, because A3 and Snow got dunked.
Nouns Esports playing that fight so intelligently around the Regieleki, understanding there's a lot of pretty squishy targets on A3 and Snow, and they just pull the trigger. All hands on deck, take that fight aggressively, and it goes in their favor. Nouns Esports are moving towards the Rayquaza in a 4v1 advantageous position, and the one for A3 and Snow is only Gek Okami, who has achieved a lot of fantastic things, but securing a Ray in the face of Inteleon, Blaziken, and I guess technically Crustle, maybe not one of them. Nachos with a heroic performance though on that Zera, 101,000 damage throughout that match.
It's crazy, isn't it, that the entire game again swung on one team fight, on one decision, but this time it wasn't about the Ray, it was about the Regieleki, and again, a great call from Nouns. Let's punish them. Let's not have the Ray dismiss, or let's not have the Ray cause havoc. Let's not second guess ourselves. Let's make them pay for going after this Regieleki immediately. And boy, did it pay dividends. They're going to be heading through to the grand finals now. Multiple times Double Trouble EU winners. Never won the Elite Tour, but neither has a team from North America, Zoinks. That boy Muck raiding to me suggests that Team Engage will be Nouns' opponents after this break. Thank you.
I almost... grand final time here on Championship Sunday. Relic, the Elite Tour is coming to its conclusion for Volume 3, canon now, between Nouns Esports and Team Engage. So one team that I think everybody expected to be here, another team who I think nobody expected to be here in the grand finals, and it is a fantastic day for an upset. Or not. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Relic, how you feeling about our grand finals?
I'm feeling really excited. Look, Team Engage, they did have a little bit of help. They were fortunate enough to receive a bye, and unfortunately for them, they're going up against a team which they lost against in Swiss, 2-0 by the way. But look,
Okay.
you dig beneath the surface, and Team Engage, I think this is a team to watch out for next season, Zoinks. I genuinely do. I think you're looking at you got like Chari King, who's been around the park, a couple of times.
Yeah.
But Liaugnos for me is one of the most exciting new talents from Italy, I believe they are. Reigns as well. I really like basically what I'm saying is I can understand why Engage has chosen this team to support. I think there is a lot to be excited about. Maybe not on the Nachos level, but when has Pokemon Unite ever been a solo game? It's about the team.
Yeah, never. It is. Actually, that's really interesting about that topic. Yes, you are right. When it comes to teams winning or losing in entire tournament runs, it absolutely is takes a village kind of situation. So I completely agree and am aligned there, Relic. So we'll see in this grand finals what that's going to come down to. Obviously, Nouns Esports playing with their sub today, but it is their manager, Blaine, who is in every single voice call of every single scrim they've ever had. So I know they are very familiar with the lineups. And hey, this is Blaine who brought Rollout Wigglytuff and Dazzling Gleam Alolan Ninetales to some incredible runs in year 1 of UCS. We definitely all remember the good old days of Team Random Gaming, I think, at the time. So we definitely have some faith behind that squad. On the other side, Engage has been making a run. It's no small feat to destroy the E-Kittens at all. But the Dark E-Kittens going down earlier on in today's bracket, who I think Kratos was filling in for them as well. So I mean, that is a stacked lineup for them to take down. Probably the biggest W in their column so far in today's tournament. The most respectable win they've earned. And now they're going to need to line up a second one of those if they want to take down tournament favorites, Nouns Esports.
Yeah, I wonder whether the kittens' lives were expended on that occasion. Of course, we didn't have the luxury to be able to watch those games play out. And so just how close were they? Did Engage do to the E-Kittens what the E-Kittens did to Nouns earlier on? I almost like this sort of mystery box element. We're going to see exactly what Team Engage has, because, of course, worth reminding everyone at home, we're heading into best of 5 territory. Because it's a single elim playoff bracket, there is no game advantage, and so both teams starting from square one, so there is more time to get back into the series if you have a bad start. It's also a longer series after a very long day, and I think Engage is going to be riding high more so off that win against E-Kittens than Nouns against A3. I think it's more the case that Nouns is relieved that they were able to get past A3.
Yeah, it was a tight set. It was a tight set, and they came away 2-1. I mean, a formidable roster. We talked about that before. But to take them down, Nouns Esports has definitely got to be, at the very least, confident in the strategies that they've been bringing to the battlefield, right? Yeah. They have been looking at this Inteleon time and time again, and it's been working out for them. Bruv has kind of played every defender under the sun at this point, but tends to move towards the Crustle in times when they're not able to get the Slowbro, and that's been working out really well for them as well. So I don't think that these strategies that they've been proving so far in today's bracket will change much. However, they are not known to lock down to a single strategy. We've seen Toon play Metagross in today's tournament, and it looked really good as well. So I think that there could be some variety there, but I mean, if it's working, it's working. I think when we start this best of 5, we're going to be locking in the very familiar compositions. But Relic, I've said this for so long, best of 5s are my favorite way to play Pokemon Unite, or at least to cast and watch in competitive play. I think the storylines in terms of how the draft looks from game to game and strategies, I feel like it's a perfect amount of games is a best of 5. I wish every game could be a best of 5, but I understand tournaments and players and blah, 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 but I do love these games when we get them.
All of my friends behind the scenes at UCS, plug your ears. It's the most traditional MOBA that Pokemon Unite gets these best of fives.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
looking at the consistency across a long period of time. I mean, if this does go the distance, hour plus gameplay, that is not an insignificant amount of time
Yeah,
to constantly be on the ball, to constantly be making the right decisions. And those right decisions start now. Team Engage, for me, they have got to nail the draft phases, because Nouns Esports has got so much experience. Engage overall doesn't have that at UCS level. Sableye, Ceruledge, Blaziken, Umbreon off the board. Bruv locking in that slow bro immediately. No surprises there.
Okay, Mimikyu still available, as well as this. Oh, did we really grab Charizard and Mimikyu in this draft? That is such an aggressive first pick from Team Engage, and one of the two is already set. I mean, okay, we are going all in. That means now Esports will get everything they could have ever wanted in the draft in the defender and support side of things. But oh my word, these two all-rounders that everybody's talking about right now are going over to Team Engage.
And Nouns very eager to counter it. They got the Hooper down on the board. Whoa, a Shifu. That is earlier in draft than we would have expected. Almost certainly going to go Water Bear. Does certainly dissuade Team Engage from putting too much emphasis on the back line. And in fact, they are going to lean right the other way. They're going to go front line next. Eldegoss locked in. Estar covering that Snorlax. Not a bad ploy, honestly. And that they will select.
Yeah, I think you could fall into the, I'm going to call it a trap, like the trap of going Clefable in a situation like this to try to slow down the Urshifu, but I think Eldegoss is actually better suited for this composition. Pollen Puff out of the Charizard feels very, very strong, or even the Mimikyu at time to time, so I do like this play, rather than the Clefable, who may have received a few buffs, but it feels like overall Eldegoss is still outperforming, so I like this choice by Engage quite a bit.
And it looks like we're going to be rounding out this roster with Sylveon. Very simple, sustain, early Evo. Safe choice. Not inspiring, but certainly something that makes me think the Team Engage is at least, taking this entire team comp situation seriously and properly. I mean, arguably their biggest statement came straight out the game zones, right? They've got that Mimikyu, they've got that Charizard. Charizard, look, I know there are a lot of people, we had Spraggles in chat earlier, very excited about Charizard and what it can do.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly the composition that Engage have woven together here suits it down to a T. I think you're absolutely spot on to highlight the Cotton Cloud Crash combo, as you usually are, spot on, right on the money. But I think
usually I've had some missteps today, but it's okay. We're getting back.
Listen, I was going to glaze out. No, okay. I think Nouns Esports has at least got the free escape from the Charizard with the hyperspace hole, and there's not anything really aside from a Snorlax body slam, which makes me think, yes, direct counter against that Hooper. So a lot of weight on the shoulders of a Desu once again, but he's a Desu. Like, come on,
right.
He's going to perform.
That's a great point, Relic. I think you're exactly on the money. That Hoopa is going to be pretty free. Snorlax, of course, on paper, a counter, but not as frequent as we would see some other opportunities there. So I think you were definitely spot on there. One thing that is very interesting about Nouns Esports composition is, one, that Blaine's on the roster today. And that means that we see tons of new looks. Somehow even more than when if Sorayu was on this. Maybe the most flexible player in the entirety of the EU region. But we are going to be locking in the top path Mamoswine, I believe. So Blaine will be bringing the Roomba into the top path. Hopefully it does a little bit more than just suck. We'll see what it can do in the early game.
Well, look, the journey to the grand finals, it's Jova. But the grand finals themselves, they are only just commencing. Shamelessly stolen off Twitter, but I think it's a certified banger, as we hope this series will be as well. And that invade isn't going very well, is it? Team Engage well aware to Nouns Esports trickery and sneakery, and shut down pretty quickly, as in this top path, just to explain alone now, is going to get chased down by Leo as much as they can as the Mimikyu sweeps up the EXP.
Everything goes in favor of Engage there. Red buff onto the Gossifleur, exactly where you want it. Charmander gets an early KO, a little bit quicker to that level 5. I mean, it is the mad dash to level 7 if you're playing that Charizard, but really everything going the direction. But now it's Blaine and Gatlu getting to work in an early KO, thanks to some nice CC, tease up that Water Bear.
Yeah, that little sound alert as well, in the case that they pop the X speed shortly before their demise. So double the delight for Gatlu as they surround and take down these early birds. Oh, did they steal that away? Dr. Gallo, I think that was a really smart steal with the Fire Blast, or sorry, the Fire Spin. Fire Spin,
Yeah.
Fire Blast, Fire Spin, definitely. Never mind, listen. They're all fire moves. They're
Exactly.
all hot. It's a barbecue.
The most fun part about Charizard is that I think every single one of their moves starts with fire. I guess Flamethrower starts with flame,
Seismic
which is slightly
Slam.
different. But oh my god, Flare Blitz, Fire Punch, Fire Blast, and Flamethrower. Like, come on.
Get more
Let's
creative,
come up with some original
Charizard.
fire
Come on.
moves. Seriously.
Like leading to your dragon type. Oh wait, never mind. And also never mind, Leo. Better luck next time. Beaten up by the Baron. In tune with Toon Slim. They're going to steal that blue buff and frolic away almost as wonderfully as the fairy frolic from Sylveon, who's back down on bottom path. These central birds also go in favor of Nouns Esports. So as much as that first 30 seconds, Zoinks, was optimum for Team Engage,
Yeah.
ever since then, not so much.
I think we're starting to see shades of what teams are going to be doing against the Charizard in the Shadow Flame patch. I mean, Urshifu in this early game is pretty horrendous to deal with. A Pokemon that's kind of notorious for chasing you all the way down the Flux Zone. Gatlu's proving that it can chase you all the way down the enemy central area as well. This is looking really good on paper from Nouns Esports. Dr. Gallo will finally get to that Charizard evolution, but they're only at 7, so 2 levels away from their Unite move at the spawn of first Regis. Certainly not where you want to be, especially when Water Bear has unlocked their own Unite at level 9.
Yeah, Gatlu gapping. Also, very curious choice from Reigns to go with the play rough. Of course, the advantage there is that you've got the invulnerability. The lack of advantage is that it's not. I don't believe it's anywhere near as much sort of health steal or life steal, sorry, as the Shadow Claw. I tell you what, Team Engager played that like a fiddle. There was no time that the Reggie Steel had before it was taken down, but that is also a free invitation for Nouns Esports to try and push further on this top path. Regieleki on its way.
Yeah, kind of shocked that Nouns pivoted 3 members to the top to take out that Regieleki when they'd already broken that top tier goal zone. And interesting strategy, but Engage is going to able to capitalize extremely well. Full 5 of their roster onto that Registeel, but now Toon Slim is popping the Inteleon Unite move to gain a little bit of vision, goes immediately to that tall grass to get as much of that Azure Spy vision range as they possibly can. 1 KO, and now this goal zone will most likely not be seeing the light of day for very long. That being said, they don't even have enough points to break that goal zone. So, getting a lot of scores in, 169 points for Nouns Esports right now, as the early game has been dominated by this roster.
Again, I don't mind that so much. It means that you don't have to do the maths, just dunk everything and then try and get as much AOS energy to dunk a little bit later. But it does, of course, give them a little bit of a safe haven, Team Engage, to try and fortify their attack for the next Reggie phase. Scores not looking great, Zoinks. 169 to now 13, unlucky for some, as X-Plane is looking at the situation around him, devolving massively. Team Engage would have caught our Nouns Esports, but for the very quick rotate through the Hooper, Ice Fang onto the Charizard, come play with me, and Toon Slim is forced right back to the second base. Oh my goodness, looking for the shot on range, not going to find it. Adesu had a free reset on their health bar. Playrough not going to take it down, though, in the Flux Zone, looking for the Inteleon maybe. They find the Inteleon maybe. Oh, lovely double KO pick up here as well, but they missed the third, managed to find a little bit more damage on Gatlu. Leo trying to find their way back to range, but now they've been sold a little bit short. Gatlu's going to try and close the gap. No, they're not. They're going to peel off. It's almost like that scene out of Fast and the Furious, isn't it? I see you again.
Yeah, alright, well, Charizard looking like Paul. Mamoswine with that Kai KO. Absolutely sick stuff. Gatlu chasing up on the Urshifu, not going to find anybody. And now it's Regirock, the final objective on this map that only 1 player is at. Regieleki having 3 players from Nouns Esports. So Regirock, not going to be alone for very long, but currently, he's kind of just chilling. The defense of that Pokemon, remarkable, and if only Inteleon trying to chip it down, it won't even get it down before it actually resets its HP.
Yeah, big push to the top off once again, and this time with more folks behind it, it feels like. Mimikyu goes down, Sylveon goes down, Seismic Slam forced out, we've got the Flowing Fists, and my goodness, that shielding from the Power Nap was eaten up almost as much as Dr. Gallo. Ice Fang, big yawn to deny Mamoswine the KO confirm onto Dr. Gallo, but Gatlu now finds himself on bottom path. A 340 score, by the way, from the Slowbro on bottom path. Beautifully played from Nouns Esports, continually forcing Engage onto the back foot.
Man, Blaine's just been on a solo mission on this Mamoswine, right? They're playing the top path build of Mamo with this Ice Fang. The 1v1 fights they've been able to put together are remarkable. But Snorlax going to score, big push by the Sylveon all the way to the backline. Mimikyu going to join them as well. Play with me, isolating that level 12 Inteleon, and immediately takes them out of the fight. No need to shut down someone else's Unite move when you can just rip one enemy Pokemon out of the fight entirely. But now it's Gatlu and Blaine on the assault. Adesu getting involved in the KO feed as well with a boosted auto attack. Gonna take out one. And Nouns Esports, they might start things off a little slow in some of these engagements, but they are never out for long as Team Engage stifled yet again on the push on the top side.
Yeah, just continually cranking up the pressure, aren't they? And it doesn't feel like there's any stopping them now. This Hooper has been utterly essential in giving Nouns Esports the tactical flexibility to fight the war on both paths. Team Engage can't seem to catch Nouns Esports out. That's not how you win against this team. You have to outthink them. When you've got a Hooper putting down a 2 KO streak, you know they're in trouble. Phantom Force delays the inevitable. The Seismic Slam basically used in frustration, I feel, more than anything, just to buy themselves a bit of time to retreat. Going to be a pretty sharp job to get that Unite move back before Ray. 260 to 31, and it really does feel like this is going to be another Regieleki, a third for Nouns Esports.
Yeah, it's like amp or not, right? That is going to be a difficult Unite move to try to farm back up. Regieleki will fall in the hands of Nouns, who have yet to lose an objective in our grand finals, I will remind everybody. There will be a Regis spawning on the bottom, but I believe it'll only be available for a second, if that, before it will despawn, and Rayquaza will be entering the battlefield. Team Engage's hopes relying solely, well, maybe Bayal, on the Charizard and the Mimikyu. These two damage carries have been working out quite well for them so far in this matchup. Rings really needs to get some resets on that Shadow Sneak. Looked great in that fight onto the tier 1 for a moment, but then it was Gatlu who shut it all down. So I'll have to see if they can put that together yet again.
Oh, and that miss as well. They're going to get so much value. Double 23, double 50, 426 to 31. Team Engage reacting, doing exactly the opposite of what we've seen from so many other teams before. Again, the power nap, more out of desperation, and it's closed down. I felt fear for Team Engage as soon as I saw how all over the place they were, and Nouns Esports, any hope that Team Engage had of putting themselves back together is being shredded right now. 2 KO streak for Toon Slim, 3 down for Engage, just the Eldegoss and the Snorlax left with a hope of stealing Ray.
Charizard brought down pretty late in that fight. It had its time to use its Unite move still, but we've been seeing this a lot from Charizard in our Elite Tour tournament today, Relic. It is a strong Pokemon. It's better with a lead, and honestly, if it uses this Unite move when it doesn't have teammates around, it feels pretty weak. It is not a Pokemon that can solo win a lot of these team fights at the competitive level. It's not something like maybe a Ceruledge or something that can turn this fight around. So, we Nouns Esports dominating this series from start to finish in our game number 1 at least, ending things off with a 690-point lead to 31. With 30 seconds remaining, that'll probably be where we see this match end.
Yeah, uninspired, I called the composition for Team Engage. I don't think it was necessarily draft where this game was lost, though. I think slowly but surely, as much as Nouns Esports was growing into the game, I think we started to see more mistakes from Team Engage, and I think it's really encapsulated by what we saw there entering the Ray Pit, to have, what was it, 2 in the top right Elgrass of Ray Pit, to have Charizard still looking for EXP in the central area, to have 1 player down at the bottom of the Ray Pit. Like, that's all fair and well in ranked, but this is a different ballpark. Team Engage has done incredibly well to get to this stage. Let us not forget that. They've done incredibly well. But yeah, I think I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier. You've got to outthink Nouns Esports, and instead they played right into their hands.
Yeah, and Nouns Esports thinking was pretty remarkable on their side as well. This Urshifu early game was just walking all over the roster of Engage Esports. Gatlu was looking amazing gameplay as well. This was a sick look. I mean, Gatlu at 5 at 8:59, I think that was, so level 5 in the first minute. When a Kung Fu is left alone in their own central area, it can start to look great, and this also shuts down the Snorlax, right? Snorlax in its Unite move, you saw the kind of desperation around the Rayquaza, but all those shields mean nothing when Urshifu can hit below all of them with that true damage, and even shuts down a Snorlax in these fights.
It's just the small things as well, isn't it? I understand if Reigns' personal preference is to go for play rough, but I just feel like Shadow Claw for the sustain and for the quick recharge on its timer, there would have been a lot more damage dealt over a longer period of time with that Mimikyu still in the fight, rather than what actually happened, which is they enter the fight, they activate play rough, they give that particular player who they're going up against a chance to retreat unless it is really a proper confirm on the KO after all of the legwork's been done by someone else. And then kind of just, okay, well, what's next? You know, that's only one example out of, I think, a few micro decisions that Team Engage need to clean up on. And that's really the greatest grace that we can give them now, is this is game one. There is still plenty of things to learn from game number one. There's plenty of time to change it up yourselves. So let's see what they cook up in game number two, whether they stick with the same sort of roster and just look at the gameplay itself, or whether they think some different flavor of Pokemon will give them the sort of concoction that will put Nouns a little bit on the back foot.
Yeah, let's face it, that draft was a big swing with the Charizard Mimikyu first pick on the second side. I mean, they're incredible Pokemon, they're extremely strong, but when you're trying to lock down an early game victory with Charizard, I do see the vision with... So, I think if you go play rough on Mimikyu, you're hoping to get a few more early game knockouts, right? If you have... When you have play rough, it means you have play rough and scratch at the same time as soon as you unlock that, which is 2 mobility options. So you can chase down, hopefully get some early KOs and swing the game in your favor. Unfortunately, we never saw that happen. It was the Urshifu that swung up and immediately shut that down and did not allow for any early game success in that moment. So that is why I think we were seeing the hope for it to work out, but unfortunately not looking like that for Engage. I think the question will be, where do we go in terms of drafts in game number 2 on the side choice? I would love to see Engage pick up first pick. Again, it gives you just a few more options. You can pick aggressively that Mimikyu or Charizard, or maybe if Blaziken falls out of that slot, or maybe even Slowbro again, you can pick up that first pick and then respond in kind. Giving Nouns Esports so many chances to respond to you with that first pick position is just tough to deal with. So I would love to see Engage flip-flop over to the other side.
I think my take is, whether you choose to ban Charizard or not, everyone's prepared for it.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows what should be happening in draft. And I feel like it was a similar situation 2 weeks ago. Again, we see a similar story playing out where people are preferring Blissey or preferring Eldegoss because, for whatever reason, nobody's quite found the flavor of Clefable that they want to fully maximize and take advantage of this particular toolset. But the point being, you know, just like we knew that Phalanx was always going to be selected if it wasn't banned 2 weeks ago, everyone's going to be picking Charizard, and there are ways that you can counter that very successfully if you give it time in draft. Admittedly, if you pick Charizard last, okay, cool, but that's why we have the pre-picks. That's why we have the setups and the coverings. You got to think 2 steps ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. We're still in such an unknown territory of this meta. You know what I mean? Like, even now, we've been... I mean, Elite Tour has been going on for a while. There's been a lot of grassroots tournaments happening, but it feels like we're still kind of in uncharted areas with this Charizard. I've seen it pop off and dominate games from beginning to end. I've seen it struggle now as well. I don't know. Part of it makes me... Okay. Great. We got a Duraludon ban from Nouns Esports. Absolutely love to see it. We'll see what Team Engage's second ban is, but you mentioned it briefly, Relic, for just a moment while we were talking about this draft. Did the Phalanx nerfs really hit that hard?
I know, man.
Like,
I know.
It is shocking to not see any Phalanx at all anymore.
It's the Toy Story meme, like Andy dropping Woody. Like, I've got a new toy to play with now. Its name is Ceruledge. Speaking of, by the way, segue into first pick. I like that play. Potentially just completely throwing that train of thought out the window. Leo's been hovering. Okay, we're going back to it. Fair enough. They were looking to change their personnel. So Dr. Gallo locks in Ceruledge. We got that Hooper steal away from Nouns Esports. That, to me, the or the more important, the more prominent pick out of those two. Dismantle what made Nouns Esports good. Dragonite, holy moly.
Okay, interesting. Now, I actually half expected to see Engage pick not only the Ceruledge, but also that Wigglytuff, kind of hand in hand, but obviously that Hoopa just a little too formidable, and now it'll be Nouns Esports' chance to hold onto that Charizard, and maybe we'll see yet another brand new look from this Pokemon, early game, late game, despite whatever we'll see will end up, but it will be the Wigglytuff locked in for Team Engage, that natural cleanse of the Unite move from Ceruledge, now not available for Nouns Esports. They'll have to deal with it in their own way, as Dr. Gallo has put on a very nice performance on this Ceruledge last time we got to see them. However, I don't think we got to see it with the Metagross hand in hand, so I'm interested there. Very late game dedicated composition right now, but the first 5 levels, it'd be tough for Engage. If they put a Delphox in there too, that's even more so in that variety.
Given that their early game didn't go so great last time, this is Brave. Okay. I don't know. I think the Leafeon would be a better choice. Team Engage. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There we go. That feels a lot more sensible for me. You've already got CC on the table with Hoopa, with Wigglytuff, Revenant Rend as well. Fantastic for that slow into the heavy damage. Compute and Crash from Metagross as well. You've got excellent CC elements which can really enable a Leafeon to take off in a big way. Admittedly, trying to break through that shielding on the Eldegoss and looking at the hyperscaling variety on Nouns Esports as well, they're going to be pretty scary looking into the late game as well. But I admire the ambition from Engage. This is a lot more exciting a composition for me, and something that's going to be a little more flavorful, a little more fruity for Nouns to try and get a handle on.
Is this Outrage Dragonite?
I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like,
with that weakness policy
why?
Being the final item, last hot swap, off focus pen into weakness policy, I really don't know, but it feels like to me we might be trying to join the melee brawl with this Dragonite. I mean, I'm down. Let's do it. I mean, Blaine's been playing so much stuff. Why not Outrage Dragonite?
Literally, my thought process is, would Hyper Beam really make sense here? Like it's still got objectives secure and it can still contribute, but like, Outrage though.
Sure. Yeah, I think Outrage is, you're going Outrage if you want to try to slow down the Ceruledge.
Yes,
Bitterblade is a very good move, obviously now thanks to those buffs, the HP restoration. I've been playing a lot of Ceruledge and Ranked this last few, I mean, I was playing it before the buffs, before it was cool, trust. But Bitterblade gets stunned and canceled a lot, annoyingly. So Outrage Dragonite, maybe one of those options where if you can stun the Ceruledge before they can get that big Bitterblade for the HP heal, that could be a good angle.
Once again, then, we're looking at these first 2 minutes as arguably crucial. Inarguably crucial, perhaps. Certainly as to how crucial that will be going towards the late game. We'll have to wait and see, but already a flank coming up from Reigns, who's already on that Leafeon with orange buff. It's a Dratini and a Gossifleur. That's not exactly the tankiest of lines that you want to try and defend with here, but it's still defensive enough, especially with that shielding from the zone, that the Leafeon can't quite break through, and uh-oh, here comes Gatlu.
Look at the faith that Engage has in Dr. Gallo, right? Instead of Leafeon trying to invade and slow down the Charmander, who has a pretty slow clear in the enemy central area, instead they all in towards this top side, trying to get the Ceruledge online. Dr. Gallo really is where their hopes reside in this matchup. Big early bit of Solar Blade damage, but no one there to follow up. We're still on Charcadet. We don't have level 4 on the Hoopa. It means we just gotta retreat.
Yeah, scary moment there for Engage. Kabachan's rotate coming out from Nouns Esports, and that's exactly why this Wigglytuff S-Dark has moved up onto the top path. Oh, double slap into Oblivion. Bye-bye Gatlu. Bye-bye Baby Blue. Although, look at the Gossifleur going after the Wigglytuff, not able to find it, but the evolution has at least been secured for that Dratini onto the Dragonair. Same for the Drizzile online. So we're at the awkward teen stage then for Nouns Esports. When will they grow up and mature? Well, maybe about a minute or two, I would say. But all the while, Team Engage still engaging. And that Hoopa's caught out. Eject button popped. Ding ding.
Yeah, they get the trade, though. I mean, it's a 1-for-1. The Drizzile goes down. The Toon goes down, but Blaine does get the KO. Eventually, Cerulege now has hit level 6, that Bitter Blade just carving through, and of course restoring so much of their health back into the action. So, the early game, that first flank for Engage does not work out, but after that, a few moments where these resources are allocated correctly, and all of a sudden, Cerulege is level leading in our lobby.
Yeah, just after just before 2.5 minutes, that's when Adesu comes online. The mercy for them is look at that faded green bar on the inside of that level circle. The catch-up EXP is the savior of Adesu at this early stage, and that's exactly why Team Engage wants to put pain to the measure right now. Again, cleaning up the clouds, just a Dragonair on point. Two very aggressive Pokemon now, two assassin styles looking to take down the Dragonair, and they do. That's 60 points on point. We got another 10 potentially. They both go after the same 5. Eventually decide to share the winnings, get another stack in. 0 to 72. A better look for Team Engage.
Yeah, great push by Engage. Now is when you need to put the pressure onto Blaine before they get access to that unbelievably good defensive passive that Dragonite has, right? That Marvel scale is so difficult to cut through with just one instance of damage, so that's why you put the pressure on the Dragonair. Registeel has been untouched up until a moment ago, as finally the snipe shot starts doing a little bit of early damage, but now it's Engage choosing to put the pressure on.
Yeah, look, again, they've won the numbers game, and they've won the Registeel. Win a prize, and maybe see and spin for more scores. This T1 zone is getting absolutely decimated, but again, it's a case that they don't need to do the maths. In fact, if they can get this 5 in, as close to maximum value on the table as you can get, but all the while on this top bar, and it is indeed Outraged Dragon Age, different franchise entirely. Outraged Dragon Knight. Anyway, they got the Regieleki. That's the point.
I was racking my brain for any Dragon Age reference. It's Inquisition. I don't know. That's all I got. All right, here we go. Charizard finally online, as well as the Dragonite, but both of those get cut down by this Metagross on a Team Engage. Absolutely crushing the enemy squad. Charlie King getting on the leaderboard in a major way, and Engage has been dusting Nouns Esports in this series. They've been putting that Wigglytuff to solo defend the bottom tier goal zone basically this entire match, with all their resources focused on the top. Nice snapshot. All the resources focused on that top side to pump up the Cerulege, but in the end, Nouns Esports isn't able to crack past that Wigglytuff, and yes, they might have a late game focused composition, but that late game's got to start swinging around sooner rather than later, because right now it's looking like all Engage.
3 words for me, Zoinks: better decision making. They let that Regieleki run. They know that they've got plenty of momentum behind them. They know that they've got the tools, the actual Pokemon on the map to go for that push and to generate some sort of value out the zone. They crack it entirely, and so okay, sure, the Regieleki scores 20, but there's none of Nouns Esports to go and score and capitalize upon that. And you can see the response is immediate from Nouns Esports. 4 players down on this bottom path. Big Revenant Rend doesn't find the KO, however, has to disengage. They've gone right back in. They eject button out. Here's Hooper on hand, and check it out, they're scoring points on top path as well. Zoinks, this is a fantastic play from Team Engage, but their Wigglytuff is down.
Yeah, power of Hoopa is strong, but the response by Nouns Esports is looking good so far. Charizard all the way back to full HP thanks to Adesu, and now Gatlu is able to start running havoc. Blaine gets involved as well, throwing a couple of hands into that Hoopa, stuns them and dissuades them from coming back. That Phantom Force portal is there, but will not be taken as Nouns Esports swings back in a major way in that team fight. Problem is they are so far behind in a few other metrics. They really need to utilize this to push into this goal zone. Wigglytuff Unite buys them a little bit of extra time, but the shields are not enough to withstand the onslaught of Nouns Esports.
There, this is the moment where Team Engage says, okay, GG's go next, but look at the aggression from Nouns Esports. This rotate very much favoring the eastern side of the map, at least as we're seeing it. Team Engage forced into their own central area if they're not on top path already, where that Regieleki waits. What was a 200 point plus lead has been slashed to just over 100, with just over 1 minute left on the clock before Rayquaza. They're going for the poke, but Nouns Esports are on their way.
Yeah, now this is going to join this fight with only one Unite move of the Dragonite, but that's already utilized to get all the way to the back line. But they're going to focus on the Regieleki instead. But they got to turn tail and focus on this Cerulege. Phantom Force to dodge that first instance of Charizard damage, but it won't be enough to outlast it. Charizard will take 2 KOs as Gatlu carves through a couple of this squad. So far, this Charizard's been looking excellent in the hands of Gatlu, and as it chases down this Metagross, it might not get the KO, but it will be good enough for a big scoring push by Nouns Esports to break that tier 1.
Yeah, Nouns Esports had to let that go. Team Engage kind of sowing the seeds of exactly what was going to happen. And Nouns Esports would rather lose the zone with minimal collateral than say, okay, we're going to defend this and have half a flux zone. It's not going to make much of a difference when it all boils down to the Ray fight in about 30 seconds.
Totally agree. Few more central area Pokemon that we can rip down from Nouns Esports, trying to earn a couple of Unite moves back. Looking at Gatlu mostly, who is running the Energy Amplifier, of course, on that Charizard, so we'll be getting it back quite quick. And, not to mention, Gatlu is level leading. Again, at level 14 on this Charizard. If anything we can say about this Pokemon, the recently buffed Battle Pass squad in this roster, is that they are consistently getting to those top tier levels. 14, 15, consistently happening in these final Rayquaza fights.
That's a lot of unnecessary damage eaten up by S-Stark. Might want to go for the retreat back to base, and they do so. Ooh, bit of a scuffle up there on the top path, though. Look at this. X-Blade's been caught out big time. It's 2 versus 1. Go for the outrage, and look at that clutch from the Eldegoss. The Metagross does eventually get the job done, but not without consequences. There's still 4 players in the zone, and Nouns Esports looking strong. Revenant Rend on the Charizard, forced into the Seismic Slam. Looks to take down the Hooper, who immediately goes unbound. Immediately falls thereafter. It's Slowbro who picks up the KO. It's an Italion who picks up the KO. The support line is down for Team Engage, but is the pulse still there?
Wow, incredible patience by Bruv, and what a shot from Toon Slim. Slow Beam locks down that Atelion, the max range shot from that snipe shot is going to be able to find that Cerulege. Hoopa, the only member left up in this fight, and they were nowhere close to the Rayquaza. What an incredible fight from Nouns Esports. The patience from Bruv on this Slowbro is unbelievable. Able to wait until that final moment, hunting down Dr. Gallo on that Cerulege, make sure that they wait for the perfect moment, and they lock down that target. Toon Slim simply does not miss on the Inteleon, and that is a amazing fight from Nouns Esports.
Yeah, look, and they managed, I think, to take down that Hooper with an auto, by the way. Burn the eject button over the wall. And it's, look, fortune favors the bold, and that Slowbro showed both, as you say, great observation skills, great patience, and a great bit of entrepreneurialism as well, just to be able to find that extra KO that helps Nouns Esports across the line. Not enough time for Team Engage to come back, at least in this game. Nouns Esports, just the one game, from taking a 3-0 sweep in the Grand Finals. Another Hundo Burger, just because why not?
Yeah, if this was an earlier round, this series would be closed up, but it's grand finals time, so Team Engage have a bit more time to work with, but it's now Nouns Esports on tournament point, headed into our next game, as they have taken both of our games in our series so far. 2-0 advantage. I mean, I talked about Bruv in that fight, I talked about Toon, but honestly, Gatlu on that Charizard looked amazing as well. Gets hit by that Revenant Rend Unite, but has the perfect decision making to grab a Leo with that Charizard Unite move. Leo does a eject button across the wall, but you're right, it was an auto attack from Bruv to take down the Hoopa, to take them down in that fight, but Gatlu able to avoid getting KO'd by the Cerulege just by that quick adaptation of the Unite move. Charizard looking maybe the best it has in our tournament so far in the hands of Gatlu on Nouns Esports.
We should absolutely shine the spotlight, in my mind, on what Team Engage were able to achieve during this game. A far better showing, a far better look that I think rewards their choice in draft, and what was a far more exciting composition, not just to look at on paper, but to see in action as well. I think both Gallo and Reigns on that Cerulege and Leafeon were both influential. So everything that we could have asked for in terms of improvements from this Cinquette, I guess you'd call them. Maybe I'm making it up on the spot, who knows. But from these 5 players, I think they lived up to the billing. The problem being is they hit 6th gear, and Nouns Esports said, okay, 7th gear. every single moment in that Ray fight, there was a counter action to what Team Engage put down. That seismic slam, really, just the put the pin in it moment for Nouns Esports to say, yeah, but.
Man. Relic, every time I watch Nouns Esports play, we really are looking at a world beater level team. Oh, also, that knockback, lining up with the Inteleon snipe shot, criminal activity. I said ToonSlim never missed. Technically, someone else hit him into the snipe shot. I don't know if we count that, but hey, the damage was done. But either way, this Nouns Esports team, it feels like we're looking at a world beater squad every time we see them play. Like, this team is leading the charge for EU, and right now they're leading the charge into this grand final set. 2-0 right now over at Team Engage. They only dropped one set so far in our Elite Tour Grand Finals day, I think to E-Kittens, and it was a close-fought battle to say the least. So this Nouns Esports squad, not interested in losing, it seems. To the surprise of no one. They're not interested in losing our Elite Tour Grand Finals.
I mean, you and I have both met Blaine in real person. Very tall individual. I would not want to try and upset him. And I can imagine that sort of carries across to the Nouns Esports squad. Crazy to think this isn't even Nouns Esports at their full strength. So it looks good.
Yeah.
That said, Game 3 hasn't been played out yet. And if this improvement curve continues from Team Engage, there is every reason to think that they can find at least one game in this series yet. But we need to see a repeat level of performance, and we just need to see that final glass ceiling broken through in those team fights to really say, okay, Team Engage is here.
Yeah. But, okay, they're making the first step, which I think is a positive one, Relic, and they have chosen first pick in their draft. I am always a huge fan of this opportunity, so let's see if Engage can work with it. We were mentioning, you were talking about Blaine and their height, which obviously is a notable factor about them. They're also an Iron Wall. Fun story about Blaine. At LAN events for Pokemon Unite, I turn into a scoundrel, I like to call myself. I'm going and I'm talking to every team, and I'm like, so who's winning in scrims? What are people playing? Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to get as much information as I can. Blaine gives me nothing. In fact, Blaine will pull me away from talking to Nouns Esports. He'll say, no information, is what he usually says, and locks me out. So, just as a heads up, don't try to talk to Blaine about scrim data. But at least we get tournament data from them, and a lot of W's in their favor.
We should emphasize, Blaine is a very lovely person to talk to. Just
Just
talk
not
to him
about
scrim
scrims.
data. Yes.
Everything else, great person.
Anything but the scrims. We've got a draft to focus on here. Blaziken locked in immediately for Engage.
Okay.
Nouns Esports respond. They're getting that Charizard on board once again. The Bruv Umbreon is out for the first time in this Grand Finals. Engage, Rain's going to be back on the Mimikyu. They've got the Blissey. Leognas is back out there as well. But looks like Nouns Esports, again, they're really comfortable with the idea of this front line. Or are they? Adesu switching, flipping between the Clefable and the Eldegoss. I think I'd prefer the Eldegoss just for the sake of consistency, but he is going to have a run on the Clefable.
I think Mimikyu Blaziken might be the two that you consider picking the Clefable into, right?
Sure.
That gravity is just such a hard counter to Mimikyu. It is so difficult. Of all Pokemon, it might honestly be the hardest counter for Mimikyu to have to deal with. And Mimikyu also wants to Shadow Sneak onto squishier targets. I don't see a single squishy target on the Nouns Esports roster as of yet. They're playing that top path Mamoswine. Yet again, the final pick will be for ToonSlim, who most likely will be playing the attacker role for the squad, as the Charizard will most likely be going into the central area. And welcome to EU, really.
Okay. Okay.
Change. Oh, man, I was ready to do my Doom talk. But here we go. It will be the cram.
Yeah, there was a moment there where Toon was flicking through the options. Hey, do you remember when Blastoise existed?
Oh, yeah. Shout out.
I mean, where did they go? I don't even remember the nerf that happened to them to put them in this position in the first place. But anyway, this is what we've got to deal with, folks. Nouns Esports, they got two hyperscalers. It's a very tanky composition, barring even the Cramorant to a certain extent is tanky as long as it stays on top of the early game. Team Engage, CC to set up the Blaziken, to set up the Mimikyu. Solo pocketing Blissey with Bliss assistance to help out. I like Starlight Recital as well, just for that global shielding. But it doesn't have an out-and-out defender. It heavily relies on finding the KOs, again, early game. And so it does feel to me, Zoinks, like a lot is riding on that first half of this game number 3. If we see signs, if we see progress, if we see Engage coming out of it with, if not a points lead, the level lead, then we're like, okay, they got a foothold here. Otherwise, 3-0 incoming probably.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a bleak look for them and great look for Nouns Esports, but they've drafted a decent composition into what they got. I mean, the Blaziken and Mimic here are going to have a tough time playing around that Clefable, rather, but there's options there. I love the Delphox pick out of Engage. I'm a huge fan of it, especially into how tanky and defensive Nouns Esports has built their roster. Delphox actually profits so hard into situations like that. So, where the early game might be a little difficult to get to, that Fire Spin is going to cause some havoc for Nouns Esports to have to deal with.
Yeah, as much as they're tanky Nouns Esports, is apart from the Cramorant, really not exactly the most maneuverable of compositions, which does set up quite nicely for a Dr. Gallo Blaziken overheat, but that is still a tricky move to pull off. Made easier, I would argue, by that Fire Spin Delphox, if of course that is the direction that they wish to go with it.
If they don't go Fire Spin Delphox, we'll be upset, I guess. That's the end of that sentence. I don't know. I'm not making any more promises. I've been wrong before, but still, I do think that would be the most optimal moveset in a situation like this, especially with Delphox having so much anti-heal potential. Just set it up as often as you can. Desu does get to a quick level 4, and that is a devastating first strike.
Absolutely into the kicks and the giggles for Dr. Gallo, who's forced to run away, and they're not going to be scoring anytime soon, that's for sure, especially with the Capuchin's rotate catches 4, but that's simply not enough damage, not with what can be thrown back in their face. 3 stacks for Nouns.
Now, Adesu getting so many of these stacks early is difficult to deal with. There's a lot of healing potential out of this Clefable, and it is running the Moonlight. No Draining Kiss this time around. Too bad. That move is absolutely phenomenal. I love watching it so much. Every now and then, Nouns is up 2-0 in a tournament. I'm like, maybe we'll get to see the Draining Kiss, but not this time. Going all in on that Moonlight. Nouns Esports trying to lock this one up in 3.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. This is the $250 game, essentially, for Nouns Esports. And they want to make sure that they secure that $250. Engage want to get some KOs on the board, and they do. Blissey Evolution, Charizard meanwhile finding a response KO, 3 versus 2, and yet somehow Nouns Esports looks the better off. 2 KO streak now, looking to steal a Bunnelby, doesn't. Excellent timing on the pound, but now it's straight into the enemy central area to go and steal some buffs.
Oh man, and Toonslim's actually joining them on this heist, and that's a Mimikyu going down. Wigglytuff trying to hold them for a moment, but Follow Me locks them in place, and Charizard the one to profit. Gatlu at almost level 9 at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean, Nouns Esports off to a roaring start in game number 3. They're about to break the 100-point threshold, and we haven't even had Reggie spawn yet.
Yeah, I'll be honest. They're not even having me in the first half. Sheik, not alone in the second half. Again, Team Engage. Please show me something different. They're going for the Shadow Claw at least. I'm a big fan of that. Too little, too late though. I mean, they're looking for the 28-point overdunk, and they are going to get it, Zoinks.
Yeah, Cramorant will be dunking in a surge of points, and now Esports isn't even done there. No jump pad means the rotation towards these goal zones defense would have to be at great cost, and Blaziken has just taken all the time they can to secure the central area. Now Esports actually pretty slow on the objective race. They're too busy scoring hundreds of points in the enemy goal zone, so Regieleki will be a slow burn, but Toonslim will take them down. Bottom Reggie, though, for Engage, might have a better chance of taking that one, especially with the overheat severe.
They needed that. Just there's no mince about it. They needed that. But Nouns Esports again. They have other plans. They go for the gold Balaza the score. What on earth am I saying? 2 KO streak is what I'm saying for the Charizard. Blaziken meanwhile is taking down the Cramorant as they look to try and mount some form of a defense. A defense which, surprisingly, Zoinks, I would say, considering the way that this game has gone so far, that actually has some found success.
Yeah, I also don't know what you're saying, but I will say I agreed with you. So, but that is true. Charizard gonna Unite move, deal a ton of damage, surge over that wall, and I mean, Nouns Esports, they might not have taken that Registeel in the bottom path, but everything else, it feels like they have taken for themselves. Regieleki walking towards that tier 2, doesn't quite land. Engage getting a W on the board with the defense there, but now finally, a few Unite moves online. Rinks does have that play with me Unite move from Mimikyu. This could be a push out of the tier 1 if they can line up a good isolation target, but Umbreon, Clefable, Mamoswine, that is just so tanky of a defense on that tier 1 side.
It's a long day and Relic is loopy, but so far Nouns Esports running rings around Team Engage. Lots of low health bars, but no KOs to be found just yet. Maybe, surely that's going to change soon. Midnight Prance, but barely any health to speak of. Finally, the first KO. Blissey falls, going to try and find another one here. We've got the Mimikyu. Good response. In comes the Fly. Unite move from the Clefable. Catches, strays with the Mamoswine picking up a KO in all of that as well. Nouns Esports once again find themselves in the ascendancy. Another team fight to add to their collection.
Engage just kind of puts together these fights where it's a give and take. The problem is just that the giving is too much. Like, Nouns Esports is just getting so much value out of these engagements. Yes, Engage gets a KO here and there, but it feels like Nouns Esports always the more profitable team in these trades, and it is all Regieleki all the time. Poor Bruv, the only member ever showing up to these bottom Reggie fights, and it feels like it is just a priority. It's so clear for Nouns Esports. Topside, as they give up yet another Reggie into the bottom side and try to push this Regieleki forward.
But as always, I respect the hustle from Team Engage. They know that rip that Reg Ice as soon as possible, and they can actually put up a successful defense on top of. Or can they? Mammoth Mash, lots of knock-up. Starlight Recital in there as well. Follow me, says Adaisu before attempting to quickly exit stage right. Mamoswine takes down the Blissey. Watch out for the double slap, slaps the bird. Silly. We got ourselves a Mamoswine knock-up, and yet again, Team Engage showing some steel, but they are losing players now. Mimikyu down, Wigglytuff down via the Charizard, but it's taken too long, Zoinks. Regieleki down.
They got the Cramorant in that fight. They got the Regieleki, and honestly, they may have lost a few of their members, but I think you still got to treat that as a team fight win because you prevented the scoreline from getting even more out of hand. That being said, it is already at that state. 242 points for Nouns Esports and only 13 for Team Engage. The Delphox and this Blaziken and this Mimikyu have all hit level 12 though, which is notable. The only problem is that they're trailing behind this Charizard of Gatlu, who is at level 14, potentially even going to get higher, but that is a Clefable and a Mamoswine on protection duty to protect the president of the Charizard, working out very well for this squad right now.
This isn't a score that is unassailable with Ray. It is a scoreline where Team Engage need members to survive whatever team fight happens and also get Ray. And so you can start to see how tall the task is, and especially when Nouns is being given 3 KOs like that on the Blaziken, for example, and more to come, surely. 2 KO streak for the Cram, and Leognus basically stopped in his tracks. It's a triple for 2.
Yeah, okay, Cramorant. So far, pretty quiet game from ToonSlim. Very objective focus, not a lot of teamfight presence, allowing Gatlu and honestly Blaine to take a lot of that credit. But ToonSlim finally getting on the board will not be ignored with their Cramorant as they put together a KO streak of 3 and is almost at level 14 by Ray. Having 2 Pokemon at level 14 to Rayquaza is obviously a crazy game, and now Esports will be starting this fight hugely in the advantage.
Okay, Seismic Slam. It looks like Team Engage is just gonna rip it and hope for the best. Delphox has fallen very quickly though, already used the Unite move, 2 KO streak, and of course it's Nouns, wiped out of existence. Team Engage.
5 players down, a full team ace as well as the Rayquaza. Nouns Esports in what might have been the most dominant game that we have had on broadcast in our Elite Tour on Tournament Point are going to crush it. And Team Engage will be finishing in 2nd place. Nouns Esports, your Elite Tour champions.
Hawaii, watch out. EU doesn't want to make a mess of Worlds again, and this is a statement to be sure. A tournament that contained Fluffy Nemesis, a tournament that contained EU upsetters, intergovernmentalizations, a team that managed to survive the threat of pickup from A3 and Snow, a team that looked better the longer this tournament went on. That bodes well for Nouns. It sounds very Nouns, Zoinks. And a 3-0 in the grand final. Nouns want to make that a more regular occurrence.
Yeah, let's take hold of the narrative here, Nouns. I like that a lot. Now, Gatlu, with I think it was 14 KOs in that fight, almost 100,000 damage on this Charizard. Gatlu felt like they were permanently fighting from level 7 onwards in this matchup, and the numbers are there to back it up. I mean, this Pokemon, when it has a lead, it feels like the most snowbally Pokemon we have seen in this entire tournament. My word, what a showing for Charizard.
Truly. I'm still not fully convinced. I'm sorry, Charizard fans. I'm sorry. I love the Fireboy as much as you, but I still think that Team Engage, I think we saw their peak in Game 2. I don't think that we saw anywhere close to what they're capable of in game number 3. And when you're even slightly off color as a squad at this level of Pokemon Unite, a player like Gatlu on a Pokemon at this moment in time like Charizard is going to run riot. But I also love how Nouns adapted their strategy to look for a different win condition this time around. They scored and they scored and they kept pushing and they kept pushing, and they said to Team Engage, listen, have those bottom Reggies, that's fine. We know that we can run you over no matter what.
They just outbulked them too, right? This top path Mamoswine with a fully stacked Fable, there just wasn't enough damage, or upfront damage at least, on Team Engage's side to really make a difference. The Shadow Claw, Mimikyu, and the Delphox never really got to the level Team Engage needed them to be relevant in some of these team fights, and it was Nouns Esports that just found another gear and took over this series. That Charizard Unite move in the backline, just criminal. You can't really discredit Engage for a raid play like that, right? When you're losing the matchup that hard, you gotta make some big swings, but Nouns Esports predicts even that and has the shutdown. Great stuff.
Absolutely. Team Engage disengaged then from the tournament, admittedly at the final time of asking, a very impressive run to get to second. Again, regardless of how they got there, you just have to beat what's put in front of you, and that's exactly what they did. They will have learned so much, I imagine, from this experience.
100%. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more matches from Team Engage, surely. I mean, a team that's going to be competing in regular events in EU. I think Engage Esports themselves putting on a league up and coming very soon, so a small shout out there. And of course, Battle Hub events. I think Engage will be a familiar face in a lot of the brackets to come.
Certainly hope so. Well, when it comes to Battle Hub, I'm afraid that's kind of it until Worlds. I know that it just feels like, oh, we're going away, but I imagine post-Worlds, we will be back with something or other. We thank you all for your continued support. For those of you who are interested beyond the realms of Pokemon Unite, keep an eye on socials. Big things are coming. I won't say what just yet, but maybe just take a look at various posts from yours truly, and maybe you'll get an idea of what. A big thank you to everyone who turned up today. Huge support for this main event. Hundreds of you. Thank you so much. If you are new here, please remember to follow. If you're feeling fanciful, please subscribe. We've got to give a lot of thanks to our backroom team as well, holding it together. Chris on production, Nats on observation. We had the likes of Azalea, Britt, Bacon. A shout out to Jagtress. Awful back issues. We wish you well. We had Kyle here as well. Tagmata. Big love to all of you. And of course, we got to give a big love to all of my fellow casters. Draku on the first half. The wonderful legendary Zoinks on the second half. Listen, Worlds is around the corner. Pokemon Unite isn't going away anytime soon. So please stay tuned for all the action on the way. I've just been Relic. And from all of us here, it is a very warm goodbye.